Good afternoon, everyone. Today, the story will be about the most dangerous robber in Spain, who specialized in stealing diamonds. José Rodriguez was born in a small town in southern Spain in the early 1980s. His family lived modestly, often lacking funds. From an early age, José showed ingenuity and resourcefulness, which helped him cope with the difficulties of everyday life. Even as a child, José was fascinated by the shiny stones that he sometimes found along the coast. These small discoveries gave him a feeling of delight and a desire for more. At the age of 10, José committed his first robbery. He stole a small semi-precious stone from a local souvenir shop. This experience laid the foundation for his future career as a thief. As a teenager, José began to think more seriously about how he could obtain more valuable stones. He explored local markets, jewelry stores, and antique shops. Over time, José developed skills that set him apart from his peers. He learned to pick locks and deceive guards. His movements became fast and confident. He often used the darkness of night to sneak into houses and shops, taking away anything that glittered or had value. His reputation grew, and soon local residents began to notice the disappearance of jewelry. At the age of 18, José decided to move to a large city to seek new opportunities for his talents. He settled in Barcelona, where he became acquainted with an underground network of smugglers. This meeting became a turning point in his life. With the help of new acquaintances, José began to steal not only in Spain, but also abroad. Barcelona provided José with access to information about major jewelry exhibitions and auctions. He became a master of disguise, often changing his appearance and using false documents. One day, under the guise of a wealthy collector, José entered a closed exhibition of rare diamonds. He carefully studied the guards, shift schedules, and security systems. One night he realized his plan. By turning off the alarm, he entered the building and stole the largest and most expensive diamond at the exhibition. This daring act made José famous in the criminal world. However, fame also brought problems. Not only the police, but also competitors began to hunt him. José knew he needed to be even more careful. He created a network of informants and bribed several influential people in order to always be one step ahead of his pursuers. Despite the risk, José continued to rob, using increasingly sophisticated methods. He tried not to leave traces and not to fall into the field of view of surveillance cameras. His skill reached such heights that many of his robberies remained unsolved. Every year his loot became more and more valuable. José invested the stolen funds in various businesses to hide their origin. He became the owner of several clubs and restaurants which he used for money laundering. One day, after hearing about the largest diamond vault in Europe, located in London, José decided to carry out the most daring robbery of his career. He carefully planned the operation, attracting the best specialists to it. At night, using a complex system of tunnels under the city, José's team entered the vault and stole millions of dollars worth of diamonds. This success cemented José as the most dangerous and skilled diamond robber in Europe. However, with each new success, the risks also grew. Security services across Europe began to hunt him. José knew that one mistake could cost him his freedom or even his life. Despite all the precautions, José realized that his position was becoming increasingly vulnerable. He began to change his shelters more often, moving from one city to another. He carefully explored each new place, choosing the safest and most hidden locations. One of these locations was a small village in the mountains of northern Spain. There, among the mountain passes and difficult roads, José found a shelter that seemed ideal to him. He installed a surveillance and alarm system to be aware of a possible threat in time. Meanwhile, the police did not give up trying to catch José. European law enforcement agencies created a special team whose goal was to investigate his robberies and arrest him. They tracked his tracks, analyzed his past actions, and tried to predict his next steps. One night, while Jose was resting in his hideout, he received a message from one of his informants. He warned him that a group of detectives from Madrid was approaching his current location. Jose did not waste time. He quickly collected his things and left the shelter, moving to the next pre-prepared point. Meanwhile, the police were getting closer to revealing his identity. They began to find traces that Jose had not had time to cover. One such lead led them to one of his old contacts in Barcelona. Under pressure, the contact revealed information about several places where Jose could be. Realizing that the situation was becoming increasingly tense, Jose decided to temporarily hide outside Spain. He chose one of the countries of Eastern Europe, where he hoped to get lost among the many tourists and local residents. However, even there he was unable to completely relax. Every day he felt persecuted. Every person seemed suspicious. In Eastern Europe, Jose continued his criminal activities, but with greater caution. He worked with new partners without revealing to them his real plans and goals. Gradually, he began to develop a new plan that could provide him with a quiet life for many years to come. One day he heard about a large shipment of diamonds that was to be transported across the border between the two countries. Jose began planning a new robbery, which could be his last, not because he planned to retire, but because this robbery was supposed to provide him with enough money so that he could live comfortably and secretly. He carefully studied the route, security, and all possible risks. At night, under the cover of darkness, Jose and his team began to implement the plan. However, despite all his preparation, something went wrong. At the site, they discovered double security and new security systems that they were not aware of. Despite double the security and new security systems, Jose was not going to back down. He quickly adapted to the new conditions and changed the plan on the fly. Instead of attacking head-on, he decided to use a diversionary maneuver. One of his men made noise at the other end of the route, attracting the attention of the guards. While the guards were distracted by a false alarm, Jose and his closest assistants entered the place through a less secure area. They used the latest technology to hack the security system and entered the cargo hold where the diamonds were located. Everything went according to plan, but when they were about to escape with the loot, one of the guards noticed them and raised the alarm. The chase began. Jose and his team quickly left the robbery scene, leaving only a few traces behind them. Using pre-prepared vehicles and routes, they split up to confuse their pursuers. Jose headed to a secret hideout in an abandoned building on the outskirts of the city, where he planned to wait out the hot phase of the search. The police, realizing the scale of the incident, launched a massive operation to search for the robbers. The surrounding area was cordoned off and roadblocks were set up. However, thanks to his skills and knowledge, Jose managed to avoid clashes with law enforcement agencies. He knew that time was against him, and the longer he stayed in one place, the greater the chance that he would be found. At this time, Jose received an unexpected message from an old acquaintance who offered help and shelter. This man was an influential figure in the criminal world and had many connections throughout Europe. Realizing that he had no other options, Jose agreed to meet. Having met a new ally, Jose learned of the opportunity to hide in one of the small towns on the coast where the police rarely patrolled. There he was offered a new passport and all the necessary documents to start a new life. Jose knew this was an opportunity he had to take advantage of. In the new city, Jose tried not to attract attention to himself. He got a job on a fishing boat so as not to arouse suspicion. But his soul, accustomed to adrenaline and danger, could not remain calm for long. Soon he began to develop new schemes, planning new daring robberies. He found new accomplices among local residents who were dissatisfied with their lives and were looking for quick ways to get rich. Together with them, Jose began preparing for a series of robberies of jewelry stores in large cities nearby. The plan was simple: a quick strike, minimal traces, and instant disappearance. One of these robberies was an attack on a large jewelry store in Madrid. They carefully planned everything down to the smallest detail, including escape routes and camouflage methods. At night, while the city was sleeping, Jose and his team entered the store and took out all the most valuable jewelry. The guards were deceived by false leads, and Jose again managed to evade pursuit. However, every success brought new problems. The police stepped up their efforts. Mass raids and checks began. Jose understood that the circle was shrinking, and one mistake could cost him everything. But passion and desire for risk did not allow him to stop. Over time, despite all precautions, tension around Jose began to increase. He understood that each subsequent theft brought him closer to an inevitable meeting with the law. But it was impossible to retreat. Passion and the desire to live on a grand scale pushed him to take new risks. One night, when Jose and his team were preparing for another robbery, he received an alarming message from one of his informants. The police have launched a large-scale operation to arrest all suspects in a series of robberies. Additional checkpoints were installed and patrols increased in cities. Jose realized that the situation was becoming critical, and it was necessary to act quickly and decisively. Jose decided to temporarily stop his criminal activities and lie low. He contacted his old ally and negotiated a new refuge, this time in South America. Using false documents and a carefully planned itinerary, he left Europe. In South America, Jose started a new life under an assumed name. He settled in a small town on the coast where no one knew him. Jose bought a small house and began to lead a modest life, trying not to attract attention to himself. But the past haunted him. He knew that one day he might return to his old habits. One day, while walking through the market, Jose heard a conversation about a large shipment of diamonds that was to be transported from one South American state to another. Excitement flared up in his eyes again. He began to study possible paths and risks, analyze security and safety systems. Soon, Jose assembled a team of locals who were willing to take risks for big money. He carefully planned the operation, taking into account all possible nuances. At night, while the diamond shipment was on its way, Jose and his team struck. They used fast and precise methods, avoiding confrontation with the guards. However, despite the success of the operation, Jose understood that he could be followed. He decided to divide the spoils and temporarily part with the team in order to confuse possible pursuers. He gave each of the participants a piece of diamonds and indicated different routes for hiding. Several months have passed since Jose found refuge in the depths of the Amazon. Life among the local tribes gave him the opportunity to regain his strength and think about his future actions. But the thought of a new big business did not leave him. Jose decided to return to Spain to carry out another daring robbery. His next victim was the famous Spanish businessman, Rafael Martinez. Rafael was not only one of the richest men in the country, but also a great collector of diamonds. His mansion in Madrid was a real fortress, protected by the best security systems and personal guards. Jose began to carefully study Rafael's lifestyle, his daily routine, and the security of the house. He learned that Martinez often hosted parties and receptions where he flaunted his jewelry. This gave Jose a chance to enter the house under the guise of a guest. The preparation took several weeks. Jose received fake documents and an invitation letter to one of these parties. He also found contacts among the service personnel who, for a generous fee, agreed to help him infiltrate. In the evening, when guests gathered at Rafael's house, Jose entered the mansion, carefully disguising himself as one of them. He looked impeccable and behaved like a real socialite, without arousing suspicion. During the reception, Jose managed to break into Rafael's private collection using information obtained from the staff. He knew that every minute counted. Jose quickly hacked the security system and disabled the surveillance cameras. In the jewelry room, he found many diamonds neatly placed in display cases and safes. Jose acted quickly, taking away the most valuable exhibits. However, when he was about to leave the crime scene, One of the guards noticed him. Panic set in and the alarm was turned on. Jose, using previously prepared escape routes, managed to slip out of the house and hide in the crowd of guests who were leaving the party at that moment. After leaving Rafael's mansion, Jose headed to a previously prepared shelter. There, assistants were waiting for him with cars and fake documents for a quick exit from the city. The police immediately began a search, but Jose was already far away, heading to the next shelter. Rafael Martinez was furious when he learned that his jewelry was missing. He hired the best detectives and even offered a large reward for information about the robber. Police tightened security throughout the country, but Jose remained elusive. In the new shelter, Jose began to plan his further actions. He realized that returning to Spain had become too risky, and he needed to look for new horizons for his activities. A plan for a new daring robbery was already ripening in his head, but this time in another country, where his name was not yet known. Jose realized that his success in Spain made him a target for the police and other criminal gangs. He needed to find a new place where he could carry out his plans without attracting too much attention to himself. Jose decided to try his hand at North Africa, in one of the major cities of Morocco, where wealthy merchants and foreign businessmen often held their business meetings and trade deals. Jose chose the city of Casablanca as his next base. This port city was the perfect place to get lost in the crowd and find new targets for heists. He began researching local jewelry stores and banks, as well as places where large gem transactions were taking place. Jose soon learned of a prominent businessman, Ali Ahmed, who was known for his passion for collecting rare diamonds. Ali often conducted transactions in his luxurious mansion on the outskirts of the city, which was well guarded and equipped with the latest security systems. This was the perfect challenge for Jose. He began preparing for the operation, collecting information about Ali's daily routine, his security, and security weaknesses. Jose also found contacts among the service personnel who, for a fee, agreed to help him break into the house. The day of the operation arrived. Jose, disguised as a security technician, entered the mansion by presenting false documents. Inside, he quickly disabled the alarm and security cameras using his skills and knowledge. Having entered the room with jewelry, Jose saw in front of him an incredible collection of diamonds and other jewelry. He began to quickly collect the most valuable exhibits when suddenly Ali Ahmed himself entered the room. Ali was surprised to see a stranger in his room with jewelry. Jose was not at a loss and quickly neutralized Ali using the self-defense equipment that he always carried with him. However, despite this, the guards noticed Ali's absence and began searching the house. Jose knew he didn't have much time. He quickly finished collecting the loot and headed towards the prepared exit. Taking advantage of the fact that the guards were disoriented, he was able to get out of the mansion and hide in one of the narrow streets of Casablanca. Jose headed to an abandoned warehouse in the port, where an assistant was waiting for him with a prepared boat. They sailed to a safe distance, knowing that a massive search operation would soon begin. Jose realized that it had become too dangerous to remain in Casablanca and decided to move to another country. In a new refuge on one of the islands of the Mediterranean Sea, Jose began to plan his next steps. He knew that with each new theft the risks increased, but passion and the desire for wealth did not allow him to stop. A plan for a new daring robbery is already brewing in his head, this time in one of the largest jewelry centers in Europe. In a new refuge on one of the islands of the Mediterranean Sea, Jose spent several weeks recuperating and considering his next steps. He realized that his reputation had grown to such an extent that now every operation required even greater care and careful preparation. Soon, Jose learned about an annual jewelry show in Antwerp, Belgium, which attracted the attention of collectors and dealers from all over the world. This exhibition was known for its exclusive exhibits and a huge amount of jewelry, which could be an ideal target for an experienced thief. Jose began gathering information about the exhibition, studying the building's layout, security systems, and security routes. He also found contacts among the exhibition staff, who, for a generous reward, agreed to provide him with the necessary information. Jose developed a plan that included infiltrating the exhibition under the guise of one of the participants. The day of the exhibition has arrived. Jose entered the building introducing himself as a jeweler from South Africa. His documents and legend were so convincing that no one suspected deception. Inside, he began to examine the exhibits, carefully studying the placement of cameras and guards. During one of the screenings, when most of the visitors' attention was focused on the stage, Jose activated the plan. He turned off one of the surveillance cameras, hiding behind improvised means, and entered the hall with the most valuable exhibits. There he used the latest hacking technology to open display cases and safes. Everything was going according to plan, but suddenly the security system went off and the building was alarmed. Jose quickly collected his loot and headed for the prepared exit. He knew that he only had a few minutes before the guards blocked all exits. Hiding among the visitors, Jose managed to get out of the building and headed to a secluded place in the parking lot, where an accomplice was waiting for him with a car. They quickly left the exhibition area, heading towards a hidden shelter on the outskirts of the city. The police immediately launched a search operation, but Jose was already far away. In the shelter, they divided the spoils and planned their further actions. Jose knew he had to leave Belgium quickly to avoid falling into the hands of the police. Using fake documents, he and his accomplice traveled to the Netherlands, where new contacts were waiting for them. In the Netherlands, Jose met with an influential crime boss who offered him help in exchange for part of the loot. Realizing that it would be difficult for him to escape alone, Jose agreed to this proposal. The authority provided him with asylum and new documents, allowing him to temporarily lie low. Despite all the precautions, Jose knew that staying in one place for a long time was dangerous. He began planning a new major business that would allow him to ensure security and prosperity for many years to come. New daring plans were brewing in his head, and Jose was ready for new challenges. A few months passed and Jose settled in the Netherlands. Life undercover was relatively quiet, but Jose could not forget about his true calling. He began to explore new opportunities for a major robbery that could bring him enough money to live comfortably. Soon Jose learned about a grand auction that was to be held in Amsterdam. Rare diamonds and jewelry, the value of which was measured in millions of euros, were going to be sold at the auction. This goal seemed ideal to him. He began to prepare a plan. At first, Jose found ways to infiltrate the auction under the guise of a wealthy collector. He used his connections to obtain fake documents and invitation cards. He then began studying the auction house's security system, security routes, and possible escape routes. The day of the auction arrived. Jose entered the building introducing himself as a famous jeweler from Dubai. His legend and appearance did not arouse suspicion, and he was able to get inside without hindrance. Inside, he began to examine the lots that he planned to steal and build a sequence of actions in his head. When the bidding began, most visitors' attention was focused on the stage. Jose took advantage of this moment, and using a small technical glitch that he himself caused, entered the protected area where the most valuable exhibits were kept. He turned off the alarm and began to carefully open the windows. Everything was going according to plan until one of the security guards noticed suspicious activity on the security cameras. The alarm was raised in the building and security began to act. Jose realized that he didn't have much time, and having collected everything he could, he headed to the pre-prepared exit. He managed to slip out of the building and hide in the alleys of Amsterdam. An accomplice with a motorcycle was waiting for him on one of the quiet streets. They quickly left the area, heading for a secret hideout outside the city. Once safe, Jose divided the loot and began to develop a plan to sell the stolen goods. He understood that with each new business the risks increased, and he needed to be even more careful. This time, he decided to turn to old friends in Asia who could help sell the jewelry and provide a new refuge. The trip to Asia was uneventful. Jose found a new refuge in Hong Kong, where he was accepted by old acquaintances. In Hong Kong, he began to lead a more secretive life, avoiding unnecessary attention. But thoughts of new daring robberies did not leave him. One day he learned about an incredibly valuable collection of jewelry belonging to one of the largest tycoons in Hong Kong. This collection was protected by the best security systems, but for Jose, this was more of a challenge than an obstacle. He began to prepare a new robbery, which was to be the culmination of his career. Jose understood that this could be his last chance to ensure a calm and rich life for himself, and he was ready to risk everything for this. Jose spent several weeks collecting information about the tycoon and his precious collection. The collection was located in a private residence on the island owned by the tycoon and was protected to the highest standard. Jose knew that this would be his most difficult robbery, but that was what attracted him. The first step was to penetrate the tycoon's circle of trusted people. Jose found a way to become part of the service staff using his fake documents and an elaborate cover story. He became the residence's gardener, which gave him the opportunity to explore the grounds and security system from the inside. Every day he carefully observed the security schedule, checked the location of cameras and alarms. Gradually, he began to develop a plan that included several stages. He understood that it would be difficult to get into the house, but it would be even more difficult to get out with the jewelry undetected. One evening, when there was a party in the house, Jose decided to act. He disabled several surveillance cameras in advance using his technical skills and prepared escape routes. Under the cover of the noise of the party, he entered the house and headed to the safe where the jewelry was kept. Having cracked the safe using the latest technology, Jose began collecting the most valuable exhibits. However, at that moment, one of the guests accidentally noticed him and raised the alarm. Panic began in the house. Security began to search the building. Jose responded quickly to the situation. He activated smoke bombs that he had prepared in advance to create chaos and disorient the guards. Taking advantage of the commotion, he slipped out of the house and headed towards a prepared exit through an underground tunnel that was used to service the residents. The tunnel led him to the coast, where an assistant with a boat was waiting for him. They quickly sailed to a safe distance, leaving their pursuers far behind. However, Jose understood that now not only local authorities were looking for him, but also private detectives hired by the tycoon. Once he reached his hideout, Jose began planning his next move. He decided not to stay in Hong Kong and go to one of the most secluded places in the world, the Maldives. There he hoped to find temporary refuge and prepare to sell the stolen jewelry through international channels. The trip to the Maldives went without any problems. Jose found a small island where he rented a villa under an assumed name. Here, among the tropical paradise, he began to establish contacts with potential jewelry buyers. He understood that every transaction should be as secretive and secure as possible, so as not to attract unnecessary attention. Despite the tranquility and beauty around him, Jose did not forget about precautions. He installed his own security system in the villa and constantly checked the perimeter. There was no room for relaxation in his life. Every mistake could cost him his freedom or even his life. However, fate had an unexpected turn in store for him. One day, while walking along the beach, Jose noticed a man who seemed familiar to him. It was one of his old enemies who also decided to hide in the Maldives. Now Jose had to not only hide from the police, but also cope with the threat from his old enemies. The man Jose spotted on the beach was Miguel Alvarez, his longtime enemy and rival in the criminal world. Miguel was known for his cruelty and cunning, and their paths had crossed many times in the past. Miguel tried several times to eliminate Jose, but always failed. Their rivalry had lasted for many years, and each considered the other his main enemy. Miguel was also in the Maldives under an assumed name and, as it turned out, lived not far from Jose. He was also involved in jewelry thefts, and his methods were just as sophisticated as Jose's. Having learned that his old enemy was nearby, Jose realized that the situation was becoming even more dangerous. The first days after the meeting on the beach were tense. Jose and Miguel avoided open confrontations, but both knew that their paths would cross again. Jose began beefing up his security by installing additional cameras and motion sensors around his villa. One night, while Jose was checking the perimeter of his property, he noticed suspicious movement in the bushes. These were Miguel's people who tried to enter his villa. Jose quickly neutralized them with the help of traps and alarms prepared in advance for such cases. Jose understood that passive defense would not work forever. He decided to go one step further and hunt down Miguel to understand his plans and prevent a possible attack. With the help of his informants and technical means, Jose found out where Miguel's hideout was located. He carefully planned the operation to break into Miguel's house and find out his plans. At night, under the cover of darkness, Jose and several of his loyal men entered Miguel's territory. They quickly and silently disarmed the guards and entered the house. Inside the house, Jose found Miguel sitting at a table with a map that marked the locations of potential robberies. Jose realized that Miguel was planning a major operation that could lead to a clash between them. He decided to act immediately and neutralize Miguel to eliminate the threat. A fierce fight ensued between them. Miguel was no less experienced and powerful opponent than Jose. They exchanged blows, trying to gain an advantage. But thanks to his cunning and dexterity, Jose managed to defeat Miguel. He tied him up and left him in the house, making sure that the police found him with sufficient evidence of criminal activity. After this operation, Jose understood that he no longer belonged in the Maldives. He quickly gathered his things and left the island, heading to another hideout. This time he chose a quiet corner in the Caribbean, where he hoped to get lost for a while and recuperate. In a new location, Jose began to establish contacts with local criminal groups in order to organize the sale of stolen jewelry. He realized that each new step required even more caution and planning, and he was preparing for the next big thing that could provide him with the peace he had been waiting for. After several months in the Caribbean, Jose decided to return to Spain. He knew that his name was already a legend in the criminal world, and he wanted to cement his title as the greatest diamond robber in history. Returning to his homeland was a risky move, but for Jose it was a challenge he could not ignore. Jose arrived in Barcelona under an assumed name and with a new appearance. He began to build a new network of contacts, gradually renewing old connections and finding new allies. His targets were the largest jewelry stores and auction houses in the country. Jose began studying their security systems, work routines, and key weaknesses. The first thing Jose set his sights on was one of the most prestigious jewelry stores in Madrid. The store was known for its rich collection of diamonds and other jewelry. Jose planned the operation carefully, using his knowledge and experience to avoid mistakes. At night, while the city was sleeping, Jose entered the building using fake keys and disabling the security system. He quickly and silently opened the safe, taking away the most valuable diamonds. When he left the store, he left minimal traces to hamper the police investigation. This success was the first step towards his main goal, to become the greatest diamond robber. With each new robbery, Jose improved his skills and methods. He acted quickly and decisively, leaving no chance for his pursuers. The police were at a loss, not knowing who was behind these daring thefts. Jose continued his activities, choosing more and more complex and protected objects. One of these objects was the famous auction house in Seville, where rare and expensive diamonds were exhibited. Jose prepared for this heist with extreme care, studying every detail and planning every step. The night before the auction, he entered the building by exploiting a security loophole. After turning off the alarm, Jose made his way to the safe and cracked it using special equipment. Taking the diamonds, he left the building as quietly as he entered. This theft was his triumph. Jose proved that there is no security system that he could not overcome. His name again began to be discussed in criminal circles and among law enforcement agencies. He became a true legend, a robber whom no one could catch. However, with each new success, the risks also grew. The police tightened security measures, and the hunt for Jose became increasingly intense. He understood that one mistake could cost him everything, but passion and the desire for perfection did not allow him to stop. Jose began to prepare the most daring robbery of his career, the theft from the largest jewelry store in Europe, located in the center of Madrid. This vault was known for its inaccessibility and reliable security. But for Jose, this was the last frontier, which, having conquered, he would truly become the greatest diamond robber. Jose carefully prepared for his latest and most daring robbery. He understood that stealing from the largest jewelry vault in Europe would not just be a challenge, but a real test of his skill and ingenuity. He began collecting information about the vault, its security and security systems. Jose spent the first weeks of preparation studying the building and its surroundings. He learned that the vault was protected with the latest technology: laser sensors, biometric locks, and 24-hour video surveillance. In addition, armed guards worked inside, ready to repel an attack at any moment. Jose began by forming a team of the best specialists. His team includes experienced crackers, hackers, and security specialists. Each of them was a professional in their field, and Jose trusted them with his life. They developed a detailed plan that covered every step and took into account all possible risks. The day came when Jose's team was ready to act. They chose a night when there was a big celebration in the city to take advantage of the diverted attention of the police and security services. Jose and his men entered the building through underground communications, which they had studied and prepared in advance. Using their technical skills, the team disabled the laser sensors and video cameras. They soon found themselves in front of the main safe, protected by a biometric lock. One of the team members, a biometric specialist, managed to hack the system using pre-collected data. The opening of the safe went smoothly, and Jose's team began filling bags with jewelry and diamonds. At that moment, they heard footsteps approaching. It turned out that one of the security guards patrolling the building noticed something was wrong. Jose reacted quickly, using a pre-prepared diversion plan that allowed them to avoid detection. Once the vault was empty, the team left the building the same way they came, leaving minimal traces behind them. Taking advantage of the noise of the holiday, they disappeared into the maze of city streets, heading towards a previously prepared shelter. However, despite the perfectly executed plan, Jose felt that the robbery attracted too much attention. The police and private detectives began a large-scale investigation, trying to find even the slightest clue. Jose understood that he needed to quickly and reliably hide the loot and find a new shelter. Jose decided to hide in a small town in northern Spain, where he was unknown and where he could calmly lie low. There he rented an old house and began to equip it as a new shelter. At the same time, he began to look for ways to legalize some of the stolen goods in order to ensure a secure future for himself and his team. But his reputation continued to grow, and rumors of the daring robbery spread throughout the world. Jose became not only a legend of the criminal world, but also a target for everyone who dreamed of fame and fortune by catching him. Enemies and rivals began searching for him, hoping to get his head and the stolen diamonds. Despite all the difficulties, Jose did not lose confidence. He knew that he had achieved his goal and became the greatest diamond robber in history. But now he faced the most difficult test: to maintain freedom and life in conditions of constant threat. Jose began to develop new plans and strategies to stay one step ahead of his pursuers. In a new refuge in northern Spain, Jose began to consider his next steps. He understood that staying in one place for a long time was too dangerous. His face and name became known not only to the police, but also to other criminal groups who could try to track him down for a reward. Jose decided to use his loot to create a new, more complex network of cover and hiding places. He began investing some of the stolen funds into real estate and businesses that could serve as fronts for his operations. So he hoped to create conditions for safe movement and shelter if necessary. One day, while watching the news, Jose learned that the police were close to finding his traces. They found several clues that could lead to his arrest. Realizing that he needed to act immediately, Jose decided to move to one of his new shelters, leaving his old shelter. He chose a small town in the Pyrenees, where he was able to quickly settle down and adapt to local conditions. No one knew him in this place, and he could calmly prepare for the next step. Jose began looking for new targets for robberies, carefully studying jewelry stores and auction houses. One of these objects was an elite jewelry store in Barcelona, which was famous for its unique collections. Jose knew that robbing this store would be risky, but that risk was what attracted him. He began planning the operation using his skills and experience. He assembled a new team of local experts to help him study the building and its security system. Every step was carefully thought out and calculated to minimize risks and avoid possible problems. At night, while the city was sleeping, Jose and his team entered the building using underground communications. They quickly and silently turned off the alarm and surveillance cameras. They soon found themselves in front of the main safe, which was protected by the best security systems. Using the latest technology and his skills, Jose opened the safe and began collecting jewelry. At that moment, they heard approaching footsteps. The guard noticed something suspicious and decided to check the room. Jose reacted quickly using a pre-prepared distraction plan. The security guard was distracted by the noise, and Jose's team was able to complete the operation. They left the building as quietly as they had entered and disappeared into the night. This time, Jose decided not to linger in Barcelona and immediately headed to his new hideout in the Pyrenees. Once safe, Jose began to plan his next steps. He understood that with each new robbery the risks increased, but his passion and desire to stay on top did not allow him to stop. Jose began to develop a plan for an even larger robbery that could be the culmination of his career. His target was the famous jewelry auction in Geneva, Switzerland. This auction attracted collectors and dealers from all over the world, and it was protected by the best specialists. Jose knew that this would be the most difficult robbery of his life, but he was ready for the challenge. He began collecting information about the building, the security system, and the daily routine of the employees. Every detail was important, and Jose left nothing out. He attracted the best specialists to the operation, who helped him develop a detailed plan. The day came when Jose and his team were ready to take action. They entered the building using fake documents and disguises. Inside, they began disabling security systems and opening safes. Everything was going according to plan until one of the alarm systems suddenly went off. The police responded immediately, and panic began in the building. Jose and his team acted quickly and decisively, avoiding clashes and delays. They managed to collect a significant part of the jewelry and left the building before the police arrived. After the robbery in Geneva, Jose realized that his methods were becoming too predictable. He decided to change his approach and began looking for more innovative ways to steal jewelry. At that time, technology was rapidly developing in the world, and Jose decided to use it for his own purposes. He made contact with a group of talented hackers known for their ability to break into the most secure systems. Together, they began developing a plan that would combine traditional theft methods with the latest technology. Jose knew this could be his greatest undertaking. The target of their new operation was the largest diamond warehouse in Antwerp, Belgium, where diamonds from all over the world were stored. The storage facility was equipped with the latest security systems, including biometric locks, laser sensors, and 24-hour video surveillance. This place seemed inaccessible, but that was what attracted Jose. Jose and his team began careful preparations. Hackers broke into the storage facility's internal network and gained access to building plans and security systems. They developed a virus that was supposed to temporarily disable all security systems in the storage facility. This would give Jose's team enough time to break in and steal. The day of the operation arrived. Jose and his team infiltrated the vault using fake documents and disguises. The hackers launched a virus, and all the storage security systems were disabled for several minutes. This was enough for Jose's team to get inside and start opening the safes. But suddenly something didn't go according to plan. The virus did not work as expected, and security systems began to be restored ahead of time. The alarm was raised in the building and security began to act. Jose and his team quickly collected some of the diamonds and tried to escape. However, the guards were already at the ready, and a shootout ensued between them. Jose and his team were trapped, but thanks to their skills and preparation, they managed to break through the blockade and escape into the maze of city streets. They headed to a previously prepared shelter outside the city. Once safe, Jose realized that this approach was too risky. He began to look for new ways to implement his plans. He soon learned about an unusual project, an auction of rare and unique diamonds, which was to be held on the yacht of one of the richest people in the world, anchored off the coast of Monaco. It was the perfect location for a heist, a yacht surrounded by water with limited access and minimal security. Jose began developing a new plan, which included the use of diving equipment and underwater drones. He assembled a team of specialists in underwater operations and began training. They worked every step to make sure everything went without a hitch. The day of the auction arrived. Jose and his team arrived on site using underwater scooters and drones to approach the yacht undetected. They entered the yacht underwater, avoiding all security systems. Inside, they began to act quickly and decisively, breaking into safes and collecting diamonds. But suddenly, the yacht experienced a power failure caused by weather conditions. Jose and his team found themselves in the dark and the situation became increasingly tense. They decided to use drones to find a way out and escape. Taking advantage of the chaos, they returned underwater and swam to a safe distance. Despite all the difficulties, the operation was successful, and Jose was able to get a huge amount of jewelry. Now Jose knew that he had to be even more creative to stay ahead of his pursuers. He began developing new technologies and methods that would help him reach new heights in the world of jewelry theft. After a successful robbery on a yacht off the coast of Monaco, Jose felt a surge of confidence. His innovative methods of theft proved effective, and he decided to continue in the same spirit. He realized that the future belonged to new technologies and began to actively study all the new products in the world of security and hacking. One day, Jose learned about a new high-tech diamond storage facility that was planned to open in London. This storage facility was built using the most advanced technologies, including artificial intelligence for monitoring and protection. This was a new challenge for Jose, and he decided that this facility would be his next business. Jose began his preparations. He turned to his team of hackers again to develop a plan to hack the artificial intelligence system. They spent months studying the system's algorithms and capabilities, developing a virus that could temporarily neutralize artificial intelligence. Additionally, Jose decided to use drones for this operation. He acquired several high-tech drones equipped with various hacking and manipulation tools. He also found experts in drone operations to help him develop a strategy for using the devices. The day of the operation arrived. Jose and his team were stationed in an abandoned building near the storage facility, from where they could control their drones. Hackers launched a virus that began to hack the artificial intelligence system. At this time, Drones controlled by specialists entered the storage facility. The drones moved silently and quickly, avoiding sensors and surveillance cameras. They reached their goal and began hacking the security system. Everything went according to plan, but suddenly, artificial intelligence began to adapt to the virus and regain control over the systems. Jose understood that time was limited. He ordered his team to speed up the process and complete the operation as quickly as possible. The drones opened the safes and began collecting diamonds. At that moment, the security system activated the alarm and the guards began to act. Jose and his team quickly collected their loot and left, leaving minimal traces. The drones returned to base, and Jose's team left the building through underground communications. They headed to a previously prepared shelter where they hid the stolen diamonds. Despite the success of the operation, Jose realized that security systems were becoming increasingly complex, and he needed to constantly adapt. He began investing in research and development of new technologies to always be one step ahead. One of his new projects was the development of micro-drones capable of penetrating the most inaccessible places. These devices could be used for reconnaissance and information gathering, as well as for conducting targeted operations. Jose realized that such drones would give him a significant advantage in the future. It has also begun exploring the use of artificial intelligence in its operations. He wanted to create his own system that would help him analyze data and plan operations with maximum efficiency. Jose continued his activities, improving methods and technologies. He remained elusive and was always one step ahead of his pursuers. His name became a legend in the world of jewelry thefts, and each new success strengthened his reputation. Jose did not stop there. His new projects and research were bearing fruit, and he felt that he was getting closer to creating the ideal system for his operations. There was a new challenge ahead, the largest international jewelry exhibition in Dubai, where they were going to show some of the rarest and most expensive diamonds in the world. The exhibition attracted the attention of collectors and investors from all over the world, and security was at the highest level. Jose knew that for this task, he would need all his experience and all the latest technologies that he had developed. The first step was the introduction of micro-drones for reconnaissance. These small devices could penetrate any room without being noticed. Jose launched several of these drones to study the layout of the building, the location of guards and security systems. Based on the information collected, he developed a detailed plan. His team included the best specialists, hackers for hacking systems, drone operators, crackers, and logisticians. Each team member knew his task and was prepared for any surprises. The day of the exhibition has arrived. Jose and his team were located in a rented office near the exhibition center. This place served as their base of operations. Hackers began hacking into the exhibition security systems to disable cameras and alarms at the right time. At this time, drone operators began to control the devices, directing them into the building. Micro-drones entered the building through ventilation systems and hidden passages. They transmitted real-time images and data on the state of security. Jose and his team watched every step, preparing for the decisive moment. Once everything was ready, Jose's team sprang into action. They used drones to disable the laser sensors and open the way to the main safe. At this time, hackers launched a virus that temporarily paralyzed all security systems of the exhibition. Jose and his burglars entered the building following the route taken by the drones. They quickly opened the safes and began collecting jewelry. Everything was going according to plan, but suddenly the virus stopped working and the security systems began to be restored. Security raised the alarm and panic began in the building. Jose knew he had to act quickly. He gave the command to complete the operation and begin the evacuation. The drones continued to operate, creating distractions and preventing security from pursuing them. Jose's team left the building through underground tunnels, which they had studied and prepared in advance. They went to a pre-prepared evacuation point where cars were waiting for them. The whole operation took a matter of minutes, but they were able to collect a huge amount of jewelry. Once safe, Jose and his team began dividing the spoils and planning their next steps. They understood that the exhibition had attracted the attention of the world's media, and they needed to be even more careful. Jose decided to lay low for a while to think about his next steps. He headed to one of his shelters in the Alps, where he could calmly analyze what had happened and plan new operations. During this time, he began developing a new strategy that would involve using artificial intelligence to analyze data and predict risks. Jose understood that each new step required even greater ingenuity and caution. He was ready for new challenges and knew that his path to the top had just begun. In a hideout in the Alps, Jose began to develop a new strategy based on the use of artificial intelligence and advanced technology. He understood that every new challenge requires new approaches and solutions. His new goal is to penetrate one of the most secure banks in the world located in Zurich, Switzerland. This bank was known for its incredible security measures and stored not only money, but also rare jewelry. Jose knew that the robbery of this bank would be the pinnacle of his career and cement his status as the greatest robber of all time. The first step was to create a team of the best specialists in their fields. Jose found talented programmers, crackers, engineers, and security experts to help him develop an operation plan. They began by examining all aspects of the bank's security system, including biometric locks, laser sensors, and surveillance systems. Jose also decided to use his new artificial intelligence, which could analyze data in real time and predict the actions of the guards. This would give them a significant advantage and avoid mistakes. The day of the operation arrived. Jose and his team infiltrated Zurich undercover using fake documents and legends. They settled into a rented apartment near the bank, which became their base of operations. Hackers began hacking into the bank's systems to temporarily disable cameras and alarms. Drone operators launched their devices, which entered the building through ventilation systems and hidden passages. The drones transmitted real-time images and data on the security status. Artificial intelligence analyzed this data and suggested the best actions to Jose's team. Once everything was ready, Jose's team sprang into action. They used drones to disable the laser sensors and open a path to the vault. At this time, hackers launched a virus that temporarily paralyzed all the bank's security systems. Jose and his burglars entered the building following the route taken by the drones. They quickly opened the safes and began collecting jewelry. Everything was going according to plan, but suddenly the virus stopped working and the security systems began to be restored. Security raised the alarm and panic began in the building. Jose knew he had to act quickly. He gave the command to complete the operation and begin the evacuation. The drones continued to operate, creating distractions and preventing security from pursuing them. Jose's team left the building through underground tunnels, which they had studied and prepared in advance. They went to a pre-prepared evacuation point where cars were waiting for them. The whole operation took a matter of minutes, but they were able to collect a huge amount of jewelry. Once safe, Jose and his team began dividing the spoils and planning their next steps. They realized that the robbery had attracted the attention of the world's media, and they needed to be even more careful. Jose decided to lay low for a while to think about his next steps. He headed to one of his shelters in the Alps, where he could calmly analyze what had happened and plan new operations. During this time, he began developing a new strategy that would involve using artificial intelligence to analyze data and predict risks. After a successful robbery in Zurich, Jose realized that his activities had not only attracted the attention of law enforcement agencies, but also caused envy and hatred among his competitors in the criminal world. Many criminal groups and individual criminals began to see him as a threat and a target whose destruction could enhance their own status. The first signal that he had serious enemies was an attack on one of his closest aides. He was found seriously wounded, but alive, and he managed to warn Jose that they were hunting for him. Jose realized that the situation was becoming critical and began to take additional security measures. He strengthened the security of his hideouts and developed a system of countermeasures, including false routes and hiding places, to confuse his pursuers. Jose also began searching for information about those who wanted him dead. He knew that the best defense was offense and decided to strike first. One of his informants said that the main threat was posed by several influential crime bosses from different countries who had united to eliminate Jose. Their leader, Ricardo Santos, was known for his cruelty and uncompromising attitude. Jose decided it was necessary to eliminate this threat before they could get to him. Jose began preparing an operation to eliminate his enemies. He assembled a team of the most loyal and experienced specialists, developing a detailed plan. Their first target was one of Santos's closest allies, an Italian mafioso named Vincenzo Rossi. The operation began in Rome, where Rossi conducted his business. Jose and his team infiltrated his luxurious mansion using fake documents and disguises. They quickly and silently neutralized the guards and entered Rossi's office. Vincenzo was taken by surprise and did not have time to resist. Jose left him a message warning Santos that he was next. The next target was François Laffitte, a French crime boss who was also part of the coalition against Jose. The operation in Paris was no less complex, but Jose acted quickly and decisively. Laffitte was eliminated as silently as Rossi. Realizing that time was against him, Jose headed for his final target, Ricardo Santos, who was hiding in his fortified estate on the coast of Spain. Jose knew that this would be the most difficult operation, and he prepared for it especially carefully. On the night of the operation, Jose and his team infiltrated the estate, using underground tunnels and the latest technology to hack security systems. They quickly neutralized the guards and entered the building. Inside, they found Santos, who, despite his expectations, had not had time to prepare for the attack. A fierce fight ensued between them. Santos was a dangerous opponent, but Jose, with his experience and skills, was stronger. He overpowered Santos and left him alive, but warned that any attempt on his life would lead to even more brutal consequences. After eliminating the main enemies, Jose understood that it was necessary to temporarily lie low. He returned to his hideout in the Alps and began planning his next steps. He knew that he needed to be even more careful and prudent in order to survive in this dangerous world. But despite all the difficulties and threats, Jose was not going to stop. His thirst for adventure and desire for greatness was stronger than his fear. He began to develop new strategies and plans, preparing for new challenges and heists that would cement his status as the greatest diamond robber in history. After eliminating his main enemies, Jose knew that peace would be temporary. He understood that new enemies could appear at any moment, and he needed to always be on guard. He decided to strengthen his connections and expand his network of informants in order to know in advance about any threats. One day, having received information about a new high-tech diamond storage facility in Madrid, Jose began planning a new operation. This vault was known for its latest security systems, including artificial intelligence and biometric locks. But for Jose, it was not just a challenge. It was an opportunity to prove that he was still the best. Jose began his preparations by attracting the best specialists in artificial intelligence and security. Together, they developed a complex hacking plan that involved creating false data and tricking artificial intelligence to gain access to the vault. The first stage was to introduce a virus into the bank's security system, which would allow the cameras and alarms to be turned off for the required time. Jose and his team used fake documents and disguises to gain access to the bank's server rooms. The day of the operation arrived. Jose and his team were stationed in an abandoned building near the bank, from where they could control their drones and observe what was happening. Hackers launched a virus that began hacking the artificial intelligence system. During this time, drone operators flew their devices towards the vault to disable the laser sensors and biometric locks. When everything was ready, Jose's team entered the building. They moved quickly and silently, following the route laid out by the drones. Inside the vault, they began opening safes and collecting jewelry. But suddenly, the security system began to recover faster than they expected. Security raised the alarm and panic began in the building. Jose realized that time was short and ordered his team to complete the operation. The drones continued to distract the guards, creating false targets and confusing their pursuers. Jose's team left the building through the underground tunnels and headed towards the prepared exit. The whole operation took a matter of minutes, but they were able to collect a huge amount of jewelry. However, despite the success, Jose felt that something was going wrong. When they reached the shelter, several armed men were waiting for them. It was a new criminal group that learned about Jose's plans and decided to seize his loot. A fierce firefight ensued. Jose and his team fought with all their might, using all their skills and experience. Ultimately, they managed to defeat their opponents and save the jewelry. But Jose understood that now a real hunt was open for him. He decided to go into hiding temporarily and change his methods. Jose began looking for new cover and developing new strategies to stay one step ahead of his enemies. He understood that every new challenge requires new solutions and innovations. Jose continued his activities, improving methods and technologies. He remained elusive and was always one step ahead of his pursuers. His name became a legend in the world of jewelry thefts, and each new success strengthened his reputation. After a fierce firefight and success in securing the jewelry, Jose realized that he needed to do even more to protect himself and his operations. He decided to rethink his strategy and develop more reliable methods of camouflage and cover. There was no time to rest, and he knew that new enemies could appear at any moment. Jose moved to a new hideout, carefully hiding his tracks. He chose a small town in Andalusia, where he settled under a new legend as a retired security expert. This gave him the opportunity to move freely and make connections without arousing suspicion. In Andalusia, Jose began collaborating with local smugglers and criminal groups, offering his services in exchange for information and assistance in preparing new operations. He knew that the more allies he had, the more difficult it would be for his enemies to reach him. One day, while studying the local news, Jose learned about an upcoming jewelry exhibition in Seville. This was a great opportunity for a new robbery, but he knew that now he needed to be even more careful and cunning. He decided to use all his new developments and technologies to make this robbery his masterpiece. Jose began his preparations by recruiting a team of hackers and drone experts. They developed a plan that included using micro-drones for reconnaissance and creating decoys. Jose also introduced new artificial intelligence that helped analyze data and predict security actions. The day of the exhibition has arrived. Jose and his team settled into a rented house near the exhibition center, which became their base of operations. Hackers began hacking into the exhibition security systems to temporarily disable cameras and alarms. At this time, drone operators began to control the devices, directing them into the building. Micro-drones entered the building through ventilation systems and hidden passages. They transmitted real-time images and data on the state of security. Artificial intelligence analyzed this data and suggested the best actions to Jose's team. Once everything was ready, Jose's team sprang into action. They used drones to disable the laser sensors and open the way to the main safe. At this time, hackers launched a virus that temporarily paralyzed all security systems of the exhibition. Jose and his burglars entered the building following the route taken by the drones. They quickly opened the safes and began collecting jewelry. Everything was going according to plan, but suddenly, the security system began to recover faster than they expected. Security raised the alarm and panic began in the building. Jose realized that time was short and ordered his team to complete the operation. The drones continued to operate, creating distractions and preventing security from pursuing them. Jose's team left the building through the underground tunnels and headed towards the prepared exit. The whole operation took a matter of minutes, but they were able to collect a huge amount of jewelry. However, despite the success, Jose felt that something was going wrong. When they reached the shelter, several armed men were waiting for them. It was a new criminal group that learned about Jose's plans and decided to seize his loot. A fierce firefight ensued. Jose and his team fought with all their might, using all their skills and experience. Ultimately, they managed to defeat their opponents and save the jewelry. But Jose understood that now a real hunt was open for him. He decided to go into hiding temporarily and change his methods. Jose began looking for new cover and developing new strategies to stay one step ahead of his enemies. He understood that every new challenge requires new solutions and innovations. Jose continued his activities, improving methods and technologies. He remained elusive and was always one step ahead of his pursuers. His name became a legend in the world of jewelry thefts, and each new success strengthened his reputation. Jose knew that now he needed not only to avoid persecution, but also to strengthen his defense. He began working on a new project that could give him more time to prepare and perform operations. His idea was to create false shelters and diversionary traps that could confuse pursuers. He found a small group of former military engineers who helped him design and build a network of such decoys. Each of them was equipped with hidden surveillance and security systems so that Jose could see who was approaching them and when. At the same time, Jose continued to develop his technologies and methods. He decided to carry out a serious heist that would require the use of all his innovations. The target was the largest diamond exchange in Amsterdam, where jewelry worth billions of euros was stored. Jose began preparing several months before the operation. He infiltrated his people into maintaining the building to gain access to the plans and security systems. He also recruited top hackers and drone experts to help him develop a detailed plan. The day of the operation arrived. Jose and his team were located in a secret apartment near the exchange. They started by hacking the security system and disabling surveillance cameras. Jose used his drones for reconnaissance and to create diversions to confuse the guards. Micro-drones entered the building through ventilation shafts and began transmitting images in real time. Artificial intelligence analyzed the data and suggested to Jose's team how to avoid clashes with security. At this time, hackers broke into the main security system and disabled the laser sensors. Jose and his team entered the building using fake documents and disguises. They quickly and silently opened the safes and began collecting diamonds. Everything was going according to plan, but suddenly, the security system began to recover. Security raised the alarm and panic began in the building. Jose realized that time was short and ordered his team to complete the operation. The drones continued to create distractions, preventing security from pursuing them. Jose's team left the building through a prepared exit. The whole operation took a matter of minutes, but they were able to collect a huge amount of jewelry. However, as soon as they left the building, the police were waiting for them on the street. Jose knew they had little time to escape. He used one of his false hideouts to escape. They headed to a pre-prepared evacuation point where cars were waiting for them. The police continued to search, but false tracks left by Jose confused them. Once safe, Jose began planning his next move. He understood that now he needed to be even more careful and inventive. He began to develop new strategies and technologies that would help him stay one step ahead of his enemies and the police. One of these projects was the development of mobile shelters that could quickly move and hide in any conditions. These shelters were equipped with everything necessary for a long stay and protection from pursuers. Jose continued his activities, improving methods and technologies. He remained elusive and was always one step ahead of his pursuers. His name became a legend in the world of jewelry thefts, and each new success strengthened his reputation. Jose continued to improve his methods and technology, remaining elusive to the police and his enemies. However, he knew that with each new success, the number of those who want to eliminate him also grows. The rivals in the criminal world did not sit idly by, and in the end, they were able to unite to develop a plan that would put an end to his activities. One of these competitors was Raúl de la Vega, a powerful crime boss who lost many businesses because of Jose. He teamed up with other powerful underworld figures, including international smugglers and former commandos, to create a plan to take down Jose. Raúl knew that it would be almost impossible to catch Jose in the act. Instead, he decided to use cunning and deception. He began to spread rumors about a large shipment of diamonds that was to be transported from one country to another. The shipment was supposedly protected by minimal security and presented an ideal target for Jose. Jose, hearing these rumors through his channels, became interested and began planning the operation. He studied all possible routes and security systems, making sure that this cargo was indeed a profitable target. He decided to act quickly and efficiently to take possession of the jewelry. The day of the operation arrived. Jose and his team prepared to attack the convoy, which was supposed to transport diamonds. They carefully planned their actions, using all their skills and technology. When the convoy reached a pre-selected location, Jose and his men attacked. However, instead of weak security, well-trained and armed fighters were waiting for them. A fierce firefight ensued. Jose quickly realized that he had fallen into a trap, but it was too late. Despite all his skills and experience, he and his team found themselves in a hopeless situation. During the shootout, Jose was seriously wounded. He continued to fight, but his strength was diminishing. Raúl and his men, who had prepared the ambush in advance, were determined to see the matter through to the end. Jose knew his time was running out. At the last moment, when hope for salvation was already fading, Jose gave the command to his team to retreat and escape. He remained in place, covering their retreat. Raúl, seeing this, approached Jose to make sure of his death. Jose raised his head and looked at Raúl. He knew he had lost, but there was no fear in his eyes. He accepted his fate with dignity, knowing that he had left his mark on history. Raúl calmly finished him off, completing the job. Jose's death came as a shock to the criminal world. His skill and courage were admired by many, and his name was forever remembered as a legend. But his enemies were finally able to achieve their goal. Jose's team, having lost their leader, decided to continue his work, but under a different name. They used all the knowledge and technology Jose developed to remain elusive and continue his legacy. After Jose's death, his gang, which had been cohesive and effective under his leadership, began to experience serious difficulties. The loss of their leader left them without a clear direction, and internal divisions began to destroy what had once been a powerful organization. Some members of the gang tried to continue Jose's work using his methods and technology, but without his skill and experience, they faced increasing problems. Operations became less successful, and the risk of getting caught increased. Soon the group began to disintegrate into small factions, each of which tried to act independently. One of these factions was led by Marco, Jose's closest ally. He was confident in his abilities and decided to continue the business, despite all the difficulties. However, without the support of the rest of the gang and constant pressure from competitors and the police, his success was short-lived. Marco was soon arrested as a result of a failed operation. Other gang members, seeing the collapse of their organization, began to look for ways to leave the criminal world. Some of them found work in legitimate fields using their technical skills, and experience. But life on the edge of the law left its marks, and many of them faced difficulties adapting to normal life. The story of Jose and his gang has become a legend in the criminal world. Many admired their skill and audacity, but also saw their fall as a lesson about the importance of leadership and how quickly even the most cohesive organization can fall apart without one. Eventually, Jose's legacy became part of the mythology of the criminal underworld. His name continued to be mentioned in conversations and stories, but his gang no longer existed as a single force. Thus ended the story of the greatest diamond robber, whose life and death left an indelible mark on the history of crime. Second story of the criminal. Michael Johnson was born into a poor family in the suburbs of Detroit. Since childhood, he was surrounded by crime and violence. His father was often absent, and his mother worked several jobs to support the family. Michael began to face difficulties early on and had to learn to survive on the streets. Already at school, Michael showed himself to be a complex and problematic child. He often got into fights and clashed with teachers. Despite his talents in sports and academics, his irrepressible nature and penchant for violence drove many people away from him. Michael was caught by the police more than once for minor offenses, but each time he managed to avoid serious consequences. As a teenager, Michael joined a street gang. At first, he carried out small assignments, but quickly established himself as a brave and ruthless fighter. His ability to plan and calmness in difficult situations made him indispensable to the gang. Over time, Michael began to rise through the ranks, gaining respect and fear among his comrades. The first serious crime in which Michael took part was the robbery of a jewelry store. He was only 17 years old, but he was already ready to do anything to achieve his goal. The robbery was successful, but the police quickly got on the trail of the gang. Michael was arrested and sentenced to 5 years in one of the state's toughest prisons. However, the prison walls did not break Michael. On the contrary, he became even stronger and more dangerous. In prison, he made useful contacts and learned many tricks for surviving in harsh conditions. Michael began to develop escape plans using his connections and skills. 3 years later, thanks to a carefully planned operation, he managed to escape from prison, which became a real sensation. Now Michael Johnson was not just a street thug, but the most dangerous fugitive in America. His story was just beginning, and new trials and crimes awaited him that would make his name a legend in the criminal world. After escaping, Michael Johnson was free, but he knew he couldn't stay in one place for too long. Police forces across the country were mobilized to capture him. Michael went to his old acquaintances, who helped him hide and provided him with forged documents. His new name was James White. While hiding from justice, Michael began to make new plans. He understood that he needed to strengthen his reputation in the criminal world and assemble a team that would be loyal to him. Michael turned to his contacts and began collecting information about the most reliable and skilled criminals who could help him. Soon he found such people. Thomas, a former safe-cracking specialist, Lucy, an experienced con artist and master of disguise, and David, a former soldier skilled in tactics and weapons. Together they formed an invulnerable team, ready to do anything for a big jackpot. The first thing Michael decided to do was organize a series of bank robberies. He understood that for this, he needed to carefully think through every step in order to avoid mistakes. Their first target was a bank in Chicago, one of the largest and most secure in the city. Michael studied all the security details, shift schedules, and possible escape routes. The plan was simple: quickly and quietly enter the bank, break into the main safe, and leave unnoticed. The day of the robbery arrived. Michael and his team were ready. Thomas entered the bank under the guise of maintenance personnel. Lucy pretended to be a client, while David and Michael remained outside to monitor the situation and be on the backup. When Thomas reached the safe, he quickly neutralized the security system and began hacking. Lucy diverted the attention of the guards, while David and Michael watched for possible interference. Everything went according to plan. Thomas opened the safe and they took a large amount of money. Michael knew that now they had to go their separate ways so as not to attract too much attention. Each team member received his share and went in different directions to hide and lie low. But Michael was not going to stop. His success and audacity attracted the attention of not only the police, but also other crime bosses. Some saw him as a dangerous competitor. Others wanted to use his skills for their own purposes. Michael decided to use this to his advantage. He began to play a double game, manipulating different factions, pitting them against each other and taking advantage of each situation. His criminal career developed rapidly. Michael and his team carried out several more successful robberies, and their names became known throughout the country. But fame and money brought not only success, but also new threats. Michael knew that sooner or later his luck might run out. However, he was ready for any challenge because his goal was not only survival, but also proof that he was the most dangerous criminal in America. Michael Johnson always carried a knife and a gun in his pocket. It was part of his style and a precaution. He knew that the world in which he lived did not forgive mistakes, and he was always ready for the unexpected. The weapon became an integral part of his image, a symbol of his strength and determination. After a series of successful robberies, Michael and his team decided to lie low for a while. They understood that their fame attracted too much attention, and any wrong step could be fatal. They dispersed to different cities, each continuing their activities undercover. Michael, now known as James White, went to New York. This city, with its endless possibilities and diversity, has become the perfect place to get lost in the crowd. But Michael had no intention of hiding. He began to study the city, looking for new opportunities for a big business. In New York, he met Elliot, a former detective who now worked for the dark side. Elliot had an extensive network of contacts and information that could be useful to Michael. One evening, while walking along one of the dimly lit alleys, Michael noticed that he was being followed. He quietly clenched the handle of the knife in his pocket, preparing for a possible attack. Suddenly, two men emerged from the shadows. Their looks were full of determination and anger. They recognized Michael and planned to eliminate him. He instantly assessed the situation and a knife flashed in his hands. The attackers did not have time to react before Michael had already neutralized the first of them. The second tried to attack, but the gun in Michael's hands stopped him. This incident reminded Michael that his dangerous past would always follow him. Returning to Elliot, he reported what had happened. Elliot confirmed that it was people from the Black Crows group who were hunting him. Michael realized that he had to be even more careful. To divert attention from himself and protect his future actions, Michael offered Elliot a deal. He would provide information about his enemies in exchange for participation in a major robbery. Elliot agreed. They began planning to rob the most secure bank in Manhattan. Days passed in preparation. Michael carefully studied security routes, staff schedules, and possible escape routes. The knife and pistol were always with him, ready to be used at any moment. The night before the robbery, Michael and his team got together, discussed the details one last time, and set off for their target. The robbery began exactly as planned. Elliot neutralized the security system, Thomas opened the safe, and Lucy distracted the guards. Michael and David provided cover. Everything was going smoothly until the alarm sounded. Suddenly, the building was surrounded by police. Michael knew this might be the end, but he wasn't about to give up. Grabbing a knife, he slipped through the back door, leaving behind several defeated opponents. David covered his retreat using his military experience. Going outside, Michael realized that the police had already surrounded the block. He rushed into the nearest alley, contemplating his next steps. He knew that new challenges and dangers lay ahead, but his determination to remain free and continue his criminal career was unshakable. Michael Johnson was ready for anything, and his story continued. Michael Johnson was always one step ahead of his pursuers. His ability to plan ahead and quickly adapt to changing conditions allowed him to evade capture. After a robbery in Manhattan, he realized that he needed to change tactics and act more covertly. After leaving New York, Michael headed south to Miami. The city, with its crowded streets and vibrant nightlife, offered plenty of opportunities to disappear into the crowd. Here he began a new chapter of his criminal activities, using fake documents and a new name. In Miami, Michael created a new team consisting of the most tried and true people. Among them were Carlos, an expert in hacking electronic systems, Anna, a master of disguise and forgery of documents, and Marcus, a former Special Forces soldier with excellent weapons skills. Together, they developed a plan for a series of robberies of jewelry stores distributed throughout the city. Michael always carried a knife and a gun with him, ready for any eventuality. The entire team was armed and prepared for the most extreme situations. They carefully studied each object before the robbery, analyzed security routes, and planned escape routes. Their goal was simple: to carry out the operation as quickly and silently as possible, leaving no traces. The first object was a large jewelry store in the center of Miami. Carlos hacked the security system, Anna distracted staff by pretending to be a client, and Michael and Marcus controlled entry and exit. Everything went smoothly, and the team walked out of the store with millions of dollars worth of jewelry. The success of this operation inspired Michael and his team. They continued their heists, moving around the city, avoiding repetition and leaving a minimum of traces. However, Miami police could not ignore such activity for long. Investigations began, and detectives were soon on Michael's trail. One of the city's best detectives, John Harris, took on this case. Harris was a seasoned professional who knew how to think like a criminal. He began to carefully study each robbery, comparing facts and analyzing the actions of the criminals. He understood that an organized group was behind all this and was confident that he could catch them. Michael learned that Harris had contacted him. He understood that this was a serious challenge and that he needed to act even more carefully. He and his team developed a diversion plan. They decided to stage several minor crimes to confuse the police and buy time to prepare the next big case. At the same time, Michael began to look for new connections and opportunities. He made contact with international criminal networks to expand his activities beyond the United States. Miami became the starting point for new adventures and bold plans. However, pressure from the police continued to grow. Harris was relentless and methodical in his actions. He did not miss a single detail, and his investigation gradually approached the solution. Michael felt that their game of cat and mouse was becoming more and more dangerous. Michael Johnson remained one step ahead, but knew he needed something more to evade pursuit. His criminal career was gaining momentum, and new challenges and dangers awaited him. His story continued, and he was ready for any challenges that fate threw at him. After a series of daring robberies in Miami, Michael Johnson realized that the pressure from the police had become too great. He decided that he needed to go into hiding and start all over again somewhere else. Texas seemed like an ideal choice, a large state with many cities where you could get lost and continue your criminal activities. Michael and his team moved to Houston, a major city that offered them new opportunities and challenges. In Houston, Michael took on the role of head of a large construction company, using false documents and a new identity. His team set about laundering money from robberies through real estate investments and other legitimate businesses. This allowed them to hide their true activities and provided reliable cover. Michael and his men continued to carry weapons, always prepared for the unexpected. They carefully planned their every action, avoiding mistakes that could give them away. Soon they began to look for new targets for robberies, choosing the most profitable and well-guarded objects. One of these objects was a large jewelry store in the center of Houston. Michael conducted a detailed study of the security system and staff work schedules. Carlos hacked the security system. Anna again used her disguise skills, pretending to be a wealthy client, and Marcus and Michael provided security and control. The robbery went off without a hitch. They left the crime scene, leaving a minimum of traces and providing themselves with an alibi. Their success in Houston strengthened their confidence in their strengths and abilities. However, despite all precautions, the investigation of John Harris continued. The detective did not give up and followed the slightest clues that could lead him to Michael. He knew that Michael was a master at hiding his tracks, but his intuition told him that sooner or later he would find a weak spot in Johnson's plans. Michael felt the threat approaching. He began to prepare a backup escape plan in case the situation got out of control. He carefully thought out escape routes and possible hiding places in order to always be one step ahead of his pursuers. Meanwhile, Michael's team continued its operations, expanding to other cities in Texas. They robbed several banks and jewelry stores in Dallas and Austin, each time increasing their wealth and reputation. But along with the successes, the attention to them from law enforcement agencies also grew. Michael understood that the more they risked, the greater the likelihood of error. He began to consider the possibility of temporarily stopping active activities and switching to legal businesses to ease the pressure. However, his thirst for adrenaline and passion for risk did not allow him to completely abandon criminal activities. Soon after another robbery in Dallas, Michael felt that their usual tactics were beginning to fail. The police stepped up security at banks and jewelry stores, and Detective John Harris was getting closer to the solution. Michael realized that it was time to radically change his approach. He decided that their next step would be to rob one of the largest museums in Texas, where unique jewelry and works of art were kept. This step was risky, but promised enormous profits and the opportunity to go into the shadows for a while, dissolving among the wealth that they could acquire. Michael and his team began carefully planning the operation. They spent several weeks studying the museum, its security system, security patrol routes, and possible escape routes. Carlos devised a plan to disable the surveillance systems. Anna again used her camouflage skills to sneak in under the guise of a museum employee, and Marcus and Michael provided security and control of the operation. The night of the robbery arrived. Everything was going according to plan until one of the guards noticed something was wrong and raised the alarm. The emergency locking system was activated, and Michael's team was locked inside the museum. Michael quickly assessed the situation and made a decision. They must find another way out. Using his knowledge of the building and skills, Michael led the team through the underground tunnels that led to the old exit. While Carlos tried to pick the lock, Michael and Marcus kept the guards at bay using their pistols. Anna, being in the shadows, signaled that the lock was almost broken. When the door finally opened, the team slipped out, leaving chaos in their wake. They escaped in pre-prepared cars, skillfully eluding pursuit. The operation did not go as smoothly as they had planned, but the loot was enormous. They took with them priceless artifacts and jewelry that could provide them with a comfortable life. Meanwhile, Detective Harris, while investigating the case, came across an unexpected piece of evidence. One of Michael's team members accidentally left a trail that Harris was able to follow. This was a breakthrough in his investigation. He began to realize that the same group was behind all these robberies, and now he had evidence linking them to Michael Johnson. Michael learned that Harris was close to a solution. He realized that now they were in even greater danger. But instead of lying low, Michael decided to launch a preemptive strike. He and his team developed a plan to distract the police and eliminate key witnesses who could give them away. They started by committing a series of petty crimes, diverting the attention of the police from themselves. Then, using their contacts, they found and eliminated those who could testify against them. Michael knew it was a dangerous game, but he had no other choice. Michael's team continued to act cautiously but decisively. They knew that every step they took brought them closer to the final outcome. Michael Johnson was ready for any challenge, and his criminal career continued to gain momentum, presenting him with more and more new challenges. Michael Johnson and his team continued to fugitive from justice when suddenly an influential and wealthy man named Victor Reynolds came to him. Victor was known for his shady dealings and the enormous wealth he accumulated through criminal activity. He knew about Michael's reputation and decided to use his services to solve his problem. Victor offered Michael a significant amount of money to eliminate his rival, another wealthy man named Jonathan Carter. Carter was known for his strong business acumen and influence in financial circles. Victor saw him as a threat to his business and wanted to eliminate him in order to strengthen his position. Michael understood that this task was extremely risky, but also profitable. He agreed, but put forward his own conditions: complete anonymity and support from Victor in case of complications. Victor accepted the terms and provided Michael with all the necessary information about Jonathan Carter. Michael and his team began carefully planning the operation. They studied Carter's daily routine, his habits and travel routes. Carlos hacked the security system of Carter's home and office. Anna began collecting information about his inner circle, and Marcus prepared weapons and equipment for the mission. The operation was to take place at Carter's mansion, where he planned to host a reception for his business partners. The evening of the event arrived and Michael and the team were ready. Anna sneaked inside under the guise of maintenance personnel, monitoring Carter's movements and relaying information to Michael and Marcus. When Carter went into his office for an important telephone conversation, Michael and Marcus, hiding in the shadows, entered the house. At the right moment, they entered Carter's office. Carter didn't even have time to understand what had happened before he found himself at gunpoint. Michael acted quickly and decisively, leaving Carter no chance of salvation. The whole operation took no more than a few minutes. After eliminating Carter, Michael and his team quickly left the mansion using previously prepared escape routes. They left a minimum of traces, and the police who arrived at the scene could not find any clues for a long time. Victor Reynolds was pleased with the work done and thanked Michael generously. But Michael understood that now they were in even greater danger. He knew that such a move would attract the attention not only of the police, but also of other criminal groups who might try to use him or eliminate him as a dangerous competitor. Michael decided to lay low for a while and carefully consider his next steps. He and his team moved to a remote area of Texas where they could safely plan their next steps. The time spent in shelter allowed them to recuperate and prepare for new challenges. But their calm did not last long. John Harris, getting closer and closer to the solution, did not give up. He continued his investigation, collecting information bit by bit. Michael knew that sooner or later Harris would be on his trail again. But he was ready for this and planned to use his skills and connections to once again evade justice and continue his criminal career. Michael Johnson and his team, holed up in a remote area of Texas, enjoyed temporary peace. They carefully considered their next steps, realizing that every mistake could be fatal. However, the calm was short-lived. John Harris was inexorably approaching the solution to their location. One night, as Michael and his team were discussing new plans, an alarming call came in. One of their informants said that Harris was able to get on the trail. This meant that they had limited time to prepare for a possible attack. Michael decided that they needed to change location again and develop a new plan that would allow them not only to hide, but also to neutralize Harris. He knew that without eliminating the detective, their chances of long-term survival were extremely low. They began preparations for the move. Carlos checked all possible routes. Anna collected all the important documents and fake ID cards, and Marcus prepared weapons and equipment. Michael devised a plan that involved a series of diversions to throw Harris off their trail. The move was difficult, but they successfully reached a new shelter in a desert area on the border with Mexico. Here they could plan their actions without the risk of being detected. Michael decided that the next step would be to create false leads that would lead Harris in the other direction. Michael and his team staged several staged robberies and attacks, which attracted the attention of the police and Detective Harris. These actions allowed us to gain time and strengthen our cover. But Michael understood that this was only a temporary measure, and the real threat had not disappeared. Meanwhile, Harris, exploring new leads, began to notice inconsistencies and realized that he was being led by the nose. He knew that Michael was smart and cunning, and so he decided to use cunning. Harris introduced an undercover agent into Michael's circle to find out their plans and get important information from the inside. Michael, although cautious, soon noticed strange behavior in one of his men. He began to suspect that there was a traitor among them. To test his suspicions, he set a trap by giving the agent false information. When the agent gave this information to Harris, Michael confirmed his suspicions and eliminated the traitor. However, Michael now knew that Harris was becoming more and more dangerous. He decided that it was time to take decisive action. Michael developed a plan to eliminate Harris, which included detailed reconnaissance and preparation. He and his team infiltrated Harris's home using their skills and experience. The night when they decided to strike was calm and moonless. Michael and his men moved like shadows through the detective's house, avoiding cameras and security systems. They found Harris in his office, where he was working on more case files. Michael knew this was their chance to end the threat once and for all. Michael entered the office and, seeing Harris, took out his knife. He approached the detective, who, sensing someone else's presence, turned around. Their eyes met, and at that moment Michael realized that Harris was ready for such a turn of events. Harris quickly pulled out his gun and opened fire. Michael managed to dodge and rushed at the detective, but Harris was faster. A fierce struggle ensued in which both opponents showed all their skills and abilities. In the end, Michael managed to wound Harris, but he realized that this was not the end. Harris was seriously wounded but still alive. After leaving Texas and crossing the border into Mexico, Michael Johnson and his team found temporary refuge in a small town, but they knew that they could not stay in one place for long. Michael understood that something big needed to be done to provide himself with security and resources for the rest of his life. Michael decided that their next step would be to rob a major Mexican drug cartel. It was extremely risky, but promised huge profits. They began collecting information about the cartel, studying its structures and sources of income. Soon, Michael learned about a large shipment of drugs that the cartel was going to send to the United States. He decided that this would be their goal. Michael and his team developed a detailed plan to seize the cargo. They studied transportation routes, times and places of departure, as well as security systems. Carlos hacked the surveillance system, Anna conducted reconnaissance on the site, and Marcus prepared all the necessary equipment and weapons. The night of the operation arrived. Michael and his team took up positions in an abandoned warehouse where the transfer of cargo was to take place. They awaited the arrival of the convoy, carefully monitoring the situation. As the trucks arrived, Michael gave the signal for the operation to begin. Carlos turned off the surveillance and communication systems. Anna provided a diversionary maneuver, creating the illusion of an attack on another object. Michael and Marcus attacked the convoy, neutralizing the guards and capturing the trucks. Everything went at lightning speed and without unnecessary noise. They quickly loaded the drugs into their cars and left the crime scene, leaving behind a minimum of traces. However, they soon realized that not everything went as smoothly as it seemed. One of the guards managed to transmit an alarm signal, and the cartel began pursuit. Michael knew he had to act quickly and decisively. He decided to use an old mine in the mountains as a temporary shelter. The team headed there, avoiding the main roads and trying not to attract attention. They hid the cargo in the mine and prepared for defense. The cartel did not have to wait long. Soon, several SUVs drove up to the mine, and armed people got out. A fierce firefight ensued. Michael and his team used all their skill and experience to keep their opponents at bay. They knew they had to hold out until the help that Victor Reynolds had promised arrived. At the height of the battle, helicopters appeared on the horizon. This was help from Victor, who sent his people to support. Together, they were able to push back the attackers and force them to retreat. Michael understood that they now had the opportunity to safely leave Mexico and take their loot. After this incident, Michael and his team decided to go into the shadows for a while, using their new wealth to legalize and strengthen their positions. They knew that their criminal careers continued, and new challenges and adventures awaited them. Michael Johnson was ready for any challenge, confident in his abilities and the support of his faithful people. After successfully fighting off the cartel and receiving help from Victor Reynolds, Michael Johnson and his team decided to temporarily lie low and consider their next steps. They chose a small town on the Mexican coast where they could remain hidden and use their new wealth to strengthen their position. In this town, they purchased several properties, opened a small restaurant and several shops, which they used as a cover for their activities. Michael understood that a legal business would help them launder money and provide cover for their real activities. However, the calm did not last long. Michael received information that one of the senior members of the cartel, Javier Mendez, began gathering people for revenge. Javier was known for his cruelty and unforgivingness. Michael knew he had to be proactive or their lives would be in jeopardy again. Michael decided to launch a preemptive strike and neutralize Javier before he could launch an attack. Together with Carlos, Anna, and Marcus, they developed a plan that included reconnaissance, diversions, and a surgical strike. Carlos took it upon himself to hack Javier's home security systems. Anna sneaked in under the guise of a housekeeper, and Michael and Marcus prepared for the final blow. The night of the operation arrived. Carlos successfully hacked the security system. Anna installed hidden cameras and motion sensors to track the movements of Javier and his guards. Michael and Marcus infiltrated the compound using their stealth and camouflage skills. They approached the house when Anna signaled that Javier was in his room. Michael and Marcus quietly sneaked inside, avoiding the guards. They found Javier sitting at his desk talking on the phone. Michael waited a moment so as not to arouse suspicion, and with one precise blow he neutralized him. However, at that moment the alarm went off, and the security began to run towards the office. Michael and Marcus took up defensive positions, preparing for battle. Carlos, observing the situation through the cameras, gave the signal to begin the diversionary maneuver. An explosion on the other side of the house distracted the guards, giving Michael and Marcus a chance to get out. They fought their way through security and left the house using a previously prepared escape route. The operation was successful, and Javier was neutralized. Michael knew that they had dealt a serious blow to the cartel, but he also knew that this would attract even more attention and revenge. Returning to their hideout, Michael and his team began preparing for possible retaliatory measures. They strengthened the security of their facilities, acquired new weapons, and expanded their network of informants. Michael also began looking for new opportunities to expand his operations outside of Mexico to reduce risks. But their peace was disturbed again. Victor Reynolds got in touch with a new request. He invited Michael and his team to participate in an international operation to seize a large shipment of weapons that were to be transported to South America. This operation promised huge profits, but was also extremely dangerous. Michael realized that this was an opportunity to strengthen his influence and earn funds for further expansion. He agreed to Victor's proposal and began preparations for a new operation. Their criminal career continued, and new challenges and dangers awaited them ahead, which required the utmost determination and caution. Michael Johnson and his team, having gained courage and experience from recent operations, accepted Victor Reynolds' offer. They knew that this mission to seize a shipment of weapons would be extremely dangerous, but they also understood that the success of this operation would strengthen their position in the criminal world. The plan began with thorough reconnaissance. Victor provided them with information about the smugglers and the routes the weapons would take. Michael and his team spent several weeks studying every step of the operation. Carlos worked on security hacking, Anna worked on obtaining false documents and intelligence, and Marcus provided weapons training and tactical maneuvers. On the day of the operation, Michael and his team arrived at the site, an abandoned port in Colombia, where the transfer of weapons was to take place. They entered the territory using fake passes and disguises. Carlos quietly turned off the security cameras, Anna monitored the movements of the guards, and Michael and Marcus took positions to control the situation. Everything was going according to plan until one of the guards noticed a suspicious movement. A shootout began. Michael and Marcus immediately sprang into action, using their skills and experience to neutralize the threat. Carlos and Anna worked in sync to provide support and control of the security system. In the midst of the firefight, it became clear that their position was becoming critical. Enemy reinforcements began to arrive, and the situation could get out of control. Michael decided to use his last trump card: explosives planted at strategic points in the port. He signaled to Carlos, who activated the explosives, creating chaos and distracting the enemy. Using the explosions as cover, Michael and his team infiltrated the cargo ship where the weapons were hidden. They quickly loaded the containers and left the port on a pre-prepared boat. The gunfire and explosions attracted the attention of local police, but Michael and his team escaped before they arrived. Carrying a load of weapons and heading to safety, Michael felt that this operation was a turning point in their careers. They have proven their strength and ability to cope with the most difficult tasks. But they also understood that their actions would not go unnoticed and the hunt for them would soon begin. Returning to his hideout, Michael met with Victor to hand over the cargo to him and discuss further plans. Victor was impressed by their success and proposed new, even more ambitious tasks. Michael knew that every step forward brought them closer to greater risk, but he also knew that stopping was now impossible. While Michael and his team enjoyed the temporary respite, they continued to prepare for new challenges. Their criminal careers continued to develop, and new operations, dangers, and challenges awaited them. Michael Johnson was prepared for any challenge, knowing that his skills and loyal teammates would help him overcome any obstacles. After successfully completing the weapon seizure, Michael Johnson and his team realized that their reputation in the criminal world had increased significantly. However, this has also attracted the attention of not only law enforcement agencies, but also competitors who want to eliminate dangerous rivals. Michael decided to lay low temporarily and use his new resources to strengthen his organization. He began to build a network of contacts throughout South America, finding reliable partners and allies. Carlos began expanding their technological capabilities, creating new surveillance and defense systems. Anna worked on creating false documents and legends for the entire team so that they could easily move between countries. Marcus, in turn, was responsible for training new recruits and ensuring security. However, the calm did not last long. One night, Michael received an anonymous message containing information about a large shipment of gold that was being transported across the border into Brazil. This was a great opportunity for Michael and his team to not only make money, but also strike at their enemies. Michael and his team began carefully planning the operation. They studied the convoy route, time and place of departure, as well as security measures. The plan was ambitious: intercept the convoy, seize the gold, and disappear without a trace. Michael understood that to succeed he had to act quickly and decisively. On the night of the operation, Michael and his team took up positions along the route. Carlos used his skills to hack the convoy's communication systems to prevent reinforcements from being called. Anna and Marcus took up positions on a nearby hill, ready for any developments. Michael directed the operation from the command center, observing the action through drones and cameras. As the convoy approached their position, Michael gave the signal to begin the operation. They blocked the road, forcing drivers to stop. Marcus and Anna quickly and silently neutralized the guards while Michael and Carlos picked the truck's locks and began loading the gold into their vehicles. Everything went according to plan, but suddenly an unexpected factor appeared. One of the guards managed to transmit an alarm signal. Within minutes, reinforcements began arriving at the scene. Michael and his team realized that there was very little time left. Michael decided to speed up the operation. They loaded the remaining gold and quickly left the scene using a previously prepared escape route. A shootout with the arriving guards was inevitable, but thanks to the preparation and skill of the team, they managed to avoid serious losses. Returning to their hideout, Michael and his team began dividing up the loot and planning their next steps. They knew that their actions would not go unnoticed, and they needed to be prepared to retaliate. However, the success of the gold operation strengthened their resolve and self-confidence. While Michael and his team enjoyed temporary success, they continued to prepare for new challenges. Their criminal career was gaining momentum, and new operations, dangers, and challenges awaited them. Michael Johnson was prepared for any challenge, knowing that his skills and loyal teammates would help him overcome any obstacles. After successfully capturing a shipment of gold, Michael Johnson and his team became legends in the criminal world. Their reputation grew, and with it came increased attention from competitors and law enforcement. Michael understood that they needed to move on and look for new opportunities to make money and strengthen their influence. One day, when the team was discussing their future plans, Michael received an unexpected message from an old acquaintance working for a major drug lord in Colombia. This drug lord, Pedro Alvarez, was interested in working with Michael. He invited them to conduct a series of operations to transport drugs across the border, in return promising a significant share of the profits and protection from competitors. Michael knew that working with a man like Alvarez could be dangerous, but he also saw it as a chance to significantly increase his influence and income. He discussed the proposal with the team, and everyone agreed that it could be a profitable move. The first task was to organize the transportation of a large shipment of cocaine from Colombia to Mexico. Michael and his team began careful preparations. Carlos developed a route plan, avoiding major roads and checkpoints. Anna began creating fake documents and preparing vehicles. Marcus, as always, was in charge of security and weapons. The operation began at night. Michael and his team took up positions along the route, awaiting the arrival of the drug trucks. Carlos hacked the surveillance and communication systems, ensuring the safe movement of the convoy. Anna and Marcus monitored the situation, ready for any surprises. The first part of the operation went without a hitch. The trucks crossed the border and headed to the transfer point. However, information suddenly arrived about an ambush staged by Alvarez's competitors. Michael knew they had to act quickly and decisively. He gave the order to change the route and head to an abandoned warehouse, which they had prepared in advance. At the warehouse, the team quickly unloaded the drugs and prepared for defense. Soon, armed competitors arrived and a fierce firefight began. Michael and his team used all their skills and experience to repel the attack. They knew that their lives and the success of the entire operation depended on this battle. In the end, they were able to neutralize the attackers and safely deliver the cargo to their new destination. After the successful completion of the operation, Michael met with Pedro Alvarez to discuss further cooperation. Alvarez was impressed by their professionalism and offered new assignments. Michael realized that this was only the beginning of their work together, and even more dangerous and profitable missions awaited them. After successfully completing the operation with Pedro Alvarez, Michael Johnson and his team realized that they needed something big to not only strengthen their reputation, but also to move several steps ahead of their competitors and law enforcement agencies. They decided to develop a plan that would be the most ambitious and risky of their careers: the robbery of the central bank vault in Mexico City. Michael understood that for such an operation they would need not only skill and ingenuity, but also serious preparation. The team began a detailed study of the bank, its security system, security routes, and all possible routes of entry and exit. Carlos hacked into the bank's internal systems to gain access to building plans and security guard schedules. Anna collected information on the spot, pretending to be a bank employee, and Marcus trained the team, preparing them for any unforeseen situations. The operation began on Friday evening when the bank closed for the weekend. Michael and his team entered through the ventilation system, avoiding cameras and sensors. Carlos hacked the security system, disabling all the alarms and locks on the vault doors. Anna monitored the movement of the guards, coordinating the team's actions through an earpiece. When they reached the vault, Carlos used sophisticated devices to break into the safe while Michael and Marcus kept watch. Opening the safe, they discovered a huge amount of money and jewelry. They began quickly packing the loot into their bags, when suddenly a hidden alarm went off that they had not been able to detect in advance. The police began to arrive at the bank, and Michael knew they were running out of time. They quickly completed loading and began to retreat along a pre-planned route using the city's underground communications. Anna organized a diversion by setting up an explosion in one of the buildings nearby to divert the attention of the police. The team safely reached the surface and headed to their shelter on the outskirts of the city. They knew the police would begin a search, but they were confident in their preparation and knew how to cover their tracks. For several days they remained in hiding, dividing the spoils and discussing their next steps. Meanwhile, Mexico City police, together with international law enforcement agencies, launched a large-scale investigation. They understood that the robbery of the central bank was organized by professionals and began to collect information in all possible directions. Michael and his team decided to lay low for a while and reconsider their plans. They knew that their last move had brought them a lot of attention, and now they had to tread more carefully. Michael began planning new operations outside of Mexico, looking at options in Europe and Asia. However, unexpectedly for them, a new player entered the game. One of the competitors, the leader of a large crime syndicate in Europe, became interested in Michael's success and offered them cooperation. This could open up new horizons for them, but it also carried new risks and dangers. Michael understood that this proposal could become a new round in their career. They decided to take on the challenge and begin a new chapter of their criminal history, preparing for new operations and cooperation at the international level. New challenges awaited them, but Michael was confident that with his team they would be able to overcome any difficulties and continue their successful and dangerous career. Michael Johnson and his team were preparing for a new chapter in their criminal career when suddenly their plans were disrupted. One night, as they were about to discuss their upcoming collaboration with a European syndicate, their hideout was attacked. Enemies they did not expect broke through with incredible speed and brutality. Carlos and Anna found themselves in the very center of the attack. Carlos, despite his skills as a burglar and hacker, did not have time to defend himself and was mortally wounded. Anna, trying to cover the retreat of the rest of the team, was killed in a shootout. Michael and Marcus barely managed to escape through the secret exit, leaving the bodies of their friends behind. This tragedy shook Michael to the core. The loss of Carlos and Anna not only caused him personal pain, but also seriously weakened their team. Now Michael was faced with the task of not only avenging his dead comrades, but also surviving in a world where his every step could be his last. Michael and Marcus took refuge in a safe house on the outskirts of the city, where they began to consider their further actions. Michael was determined to find out who was behind this attack. He suspected that it could be one of the competitors, perhaps even the European syndicate itself with which they planned to cooperate. The first step was to contact Victor Reynolds and see if he had any information. Victor, having heard about the attack and death of Carlos and Anna, promised his help. He provided Michael with several agents and resources to conduct his own investigation. Michael and Marcus began to carefully study the scene of the attack, collecting all possible evidence. They found traces that pointed to a group of mercenaries known for their cruelty and ruthlessness. These mercenaries often worked for the most powerful criminal organizations, which only confirmed Michael's suspicions. They soon followed a trail that led them to one of the European crime bosses named Ivan Petrovich. This man was known for his ruthlessness and enormous influence in the criminal world. Michael decided it was time to strike back. Michael and Marcus developed a plan that included several steps. First, they had to find out the location of Ivan and his closest associates. They then planned to launch an attack on his headquarters to avenge the death of their friends and show that they did not intend to give up. At night, Michael and Marcus entered Ivan's territory, using all their skills and experience. They acted quietly and decisively, eliminating the guards and making their way to the main office. When they reached Ivan's office, a fierce firefight began. Michael confronted Ivan personally. Their fight was short but intense. In the end, Michael gained the upper hand but was wounded. Marcus helped him get out of the building while explosions and gunshots were heard around him. They left Ivan's territory, knowing that they had dealt a serious blow to his organization. However, Michael understood that this was just the beginning. He and Marcus decided that their path now lies in Europe, where they will continue their fight, avenging Carlos and Anna and strengthening their position in the world of international crime. Their criminal career continued, and new dangers and challenges awaited them ahead. But Michael was determined to continue the fight, knowing that behind every step they took was the memory of their fallen comrades and the desire to make their sacrifice not in vain. Having left Ivan's territory and escaped persecution, Michael and Marcus began planning their move to Europe. Their next goal is to eliminate the remaining threats and build a new network that will help them not only survive, but dominate the international criminal world. They soon contacted Victor Reynolds to get support for the move and to learn more about their new enemies. Victor provided Michael and Marcus with fake passports and financial assistance to cross the border safely. They went to Germany, where Victor arranged for them a meeting with trusted partners who could help them gain a foothold in Europe. In Germany, Michael and Marcus met with a former military specialist named Oliver Schmidt. Oliver had extensive experience in tactical operations and intelligence, as well as extensive connections in the European criminal world. He offered his help in exchange for a share in future operations. The first step was to gather information about Ivan's closest associates in order to launch surgical strikes and weaken his organization. Oliver used his contacts to find out the whereabouts of key figures. Michael and Marcus, along with Oliver, began planning a series of attacks that would destabilize Ivan's structure. The first target was in the suburbs of Berlin. It was a warehouse where money and weapons belonging to Ivan were kept. Michael and Marcus entered the warehouse at night, using the skills they had acquired over years of criminal activity. They quickly neutralized the guards and blew up the warehouse, destroying all valuable resources. They then headed to Amsterdam, where one of Ivan's key lieutenants was hiding. The operation was complex but carefully planned. They infiltrated the lieutenant's mansion and set up an ambush, quickly and effectively eliminating their target. These blows caused serious damage to Ivan's organization, and Michael knew that this was only the beginning. They continued to methodically destroy their remaining comrades, spreading fear and chaos among their enemies. However, with each successful strike, the risk increased. Michael knew that sooner or later Ivan or his remaining allies would try to take revenge. Soon Michael received information that Ivan had taken refuge in one of his secret hideouts in the south of France. It was a well-guarded villa, equipped with the latest security systems. Michael and his team began planning the final blow that would put an end to Ivan and his organization. They spent several days studying the villa and its security measures. Oliver used his contacts to obtain blueprints of the building and security shift schedules. Michael, Marcus, and Oliver prepared everything necessary for the operation: weapons, explosives, and hacking equipment. On the night of the operation, they entered the villa, avoiding patrols and cameras. Carlos, although dead, left behind knowledge and devices that helped Michael and his team disable the security systems. They got inside the building and began to methodically move towards Ivan's office. A fierce firefight ensued. Michael and Marcus, using their tactical training, quickly eliminated the guards. They burst into Ivan's office and took him by surprise. Ivan tried to resist, but Michael was determined. With the last shot, Ivan was defeated. Michael and Marcus left the villa, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. They knew that they had destroyed one of the biggest threats, but they also knew that their fight would not end there. Now they were ready for new challenges and adventures in the world of international crime. They continued to strengthen their positions, build new connections, and prepare for new operations. Their criminal career was gaining momentum, and new challenges and dangers awaited them. Michael Johnson was determined to continue the fight, knowing that the memory of Carlos and Anna would inspire him to new feats. After successfully eliminating Ivan Petrovich, Michael Johnson and his team felt short-term relief. However, they realized that their success had attracted the attention of many competitors, and they now became a prime target for many criminal groups in Europe. They continued their operations, but each time they had to be more and more careful. Soon they began working on a new project, a major robbery of one of the most secure banks in Switzerland. Michael knew that the success of this operation would provide them with enormous resources and further strengthen their influence. They began to prepare carefully, studying every detail of the security system and developing an infiltration plan. However, their plans were disrupted. One night, as the team discussed the final details of the operation, they received a disturbing message. Marcus, one of the most loyal and reliable members of the team, had been killed. The attack occurred while he was returning from a reconnaissance mission. His car was attacked by unknown assailants, and despite his skills, Marcus was unable to cope with the numerical superiority of his opponents. This loss was devastating for Michael. He lost not only a comrade in arms, but also a friend who was always there in the most dangerous situations. Anger and a thirst for revenge filled his heart. Michael decided that he needed to immediately find out who was behind this attack and eliminate those responsible. Using his contacts and connections, Michael discovered that a new, ambitious group from Eastern Europe, led by a ruthless leader named Sergei Kozlov, was behind Marcus's murder. Kozlov wanted to expand his influence and saw Michael's team as a threat to his plans. Michael decided that he would no longer wait or hesitate. He developed a plan to attack Sergei's headquarters in Prague. Together with Oliver, who had now become his closest ally, Michael began preparations for the operation. They collected information about Kozlov, his security, and possible weak points in his defense. The night of the decisive blow arrived. Michael and Oliver infiltrated Sergei's territory using their experience and skills. They acted quickly and decisively, eliminating the guards and advancing towards the main office. A fierce firefight ensued inside the building, but Michael was adamant. He knew he had to avenge Marcus and show his enemies that he wasn't worth messing with. Michael and Oliver burst into Sergei's office. A fierce battle ensued, during which Michael, despite being wounded, was able to neutralize Sergei and his entourage. This blow not only avenged the death of Marcus, but also seriously weakened Kozlov's group. After leaving Prague, Michael and Oliver knew that their situation remained extremely dangerous. However, they were not going to give up. Michael decided that their priority would now be not only survival, but also creating a network of allies to help them fight their enemies. Returning to base, Michael began rebuilding his team. He brought in new people, trained them, and prepared them for future operations. Michael's every action was now aimed at strengthening their position and eliminating those who dared to stand in their way. Their criminal careers continued to develop and new trials and challenges awaited them. Michael Johnson understood that every day could be his last, but his determination and self-confidence did not allow him to retreat. He knew that the memory of Marcus, Carlos, and Anna would inspire him to new exploits and help him overcome any difficulties. With a new team and renewed determination, Michael began planning his next big thing. His target was Europe's largest diamond transporter, known for its incredible security. The robbery operation was supposed to be not just a robbery, but a real work of art that would shock the whole world. Michael and his team spent several months preparing. They studied transportation routes, security company schedules, and all possible loopholes. Oliver, with his wealth of military experience, developed a strategy for capturing the convoy, which included several diversionary maneuvers and precision strikes. The night of the operation was filled with tension. Michael and his team took up their positions along the transport route. They used new technologies to hack into communications and surveillance systems provided by Victor Reynolds. Everything was ready to begin. As the diamond convoy approached the ambush site, Michael gave the signal to begin the operation. They quickly and silently neutralized the guards using gas grenades and communications jamming devices. The operation went according to plan until an unexpected factor appeared. One of the guards managed to call for reinforcements. Michael and his team knew they only had a few minutes before help arrived. They acted quickly and decisively, loading the diamonds into their vehicles and fleeing the crime scene at high speed. The pursuit began immediately. Michael and Oliver drove their cars through narrow streets and abandoned roads, skillfully avoiding police roadblocks. Thanks to their preparation and skill, they were able to evade pursuit and hide in a pre-prepared shelter. The operation was successful, and the diamonds were in the hands of Michael and his team. This success not only strengthened their financial position, but also further increased their reputation in the criminal world. However, Michael knew that with each successful operation the risk increased, and they needed to be more and more careful. Michael decided that the next step would be to create a network of safe houses and shelters throughout Europe that would help them hide and plan new operations. He began to establish contacts with other criminal groups, offering mutually beneficial cooperation and support. After successfully robbing a diamond convoy, Michael Johnson and his team became legends in the criminal world. Their reputation grew, but so did their threat. Michael understood that they needed to strengthen their position and look for new, innovative ways to increase their influence and income. Michael soon learned of an international auction network that conducted secret auctions of rare artifacts and works of art. These auctions took place in the most elite and protected places in Europe, and only a select few could attend them. But Michael saw this as an opportunity not only to make money, but also to penetrate the upper echelons of the criminal world. Michael decided that their next step would be to rob one of these auctions. He and his team began preparing for this ambitious operation. They collected information about the upcoming auction in Paris, which was to take place in one of the old mansions owned by an influential collector. The first step was to find a way to get into the auction undercover. Oliver, thanks to his connections, managed to obtain fake invitations and provide the team with access to the event. Anna, a master of disguise, created new images and legends for everyone, which helped them mingle with the elite public. The day of the auction arrived. The mansion was full of rich and powerful people willing to spend millions on rare artifacts. Michael and his team acted cautiously, observing what was happening and studying the security systems. Carlos, using his experience, hacked into internal surveillance systems to ensure the team could operate without interference. When the bidding began, Michael and his team were ready. They waited until bidding began for the most valuable lot, a rare diamond whose value was estimated at tens of millions of dollars. At the climax of the auction, when everyone's attention was focused on the diamond, Michael gave the signal to begin the operation. Anna used smoke grenades to create panic and distract the attention of the guards. Oliver and Michael quickly and silently neutralized the guards, and Carlos broke into the safe where valuable lots were kept. The entire operation took a few minutes, and the team managed to leave the mansion before the police arrived. However, their adventures did not end there. As they were leaving the crime scene, their car was ambushed. It turned out that the information about the auction was a leak caused by one of their competitors, the leader of a large criminal network named Dmitry Volkov. Volkov wanted to eliminate Michael and his team in order to strengthen his influence. A fierce firefight ensued. Michael and his team, using their skill and experience, managed to fight back and evade pursuit. They realized that Volkov was becoming a serious threat and decided that the next step would be to eliminate this dangerous competitor. Michael and Oliver began collecting information about Volkov and his organization. They learned that Volkov had several bases in Eastern Europe and decided to strike one of them in order to destabilize his operation and force him to come out of the shadows. They carefully prepared for the operation, developing a plan of attack and gathering all the necessary resources. The night of the decisive blow arrived. Michael and his team infiltrated Volkov's base using all their skills and experience. They acted quickly and decisively, eliminating the guards and making their way to the main building. A fierce firefight ensued inside. Michael and his team, despite the numerical superiority of the enemy, won. They captured important documents and Volkov's resources that could help them in the future. Michael knew that this victory was only the beginning. Volkov will not give up so easily, and new battles and trials await them. But he was confident in his abilities and his comrades, knowing that together they could overcome any difficulties and continue their criminal career at a new level. Over time, Michael Johnson's team began to shrink. The FBI did not give up trying to catch them, and some members of the team fell into the hands of justice. Others, tired of the constant danger and stress, decided to leave and start a new life. It was a hard blow for Michael, but he knew he needed to move on. One of the first to leave the team was Carlos. The FBI got on his trail and he was arrested in Spain. Carlos stood firm and did not betray his comrades, but the loss of such an important member of the team was noticeable. Anna, tired of constant stress and life on the run, decided to leave and start a new life in South America. She left the team, leaving Michael and Oliver alone. Michael and Oliver continued their operations, but each time they had to act more and more carefully. They knew that the FBI would not give up and would continue the hunt. Michael knew he needed to find new allies and expand his network to continue his criminal career. One day, during one of the bank robberies in Germany, Michael and Oliver encountered a new obstacle. The FBI and local police coordinated their efforts and set up an ambush. The operation did not go according to plan, and Oliver was seriously injured. Michael barely pulled him out of the building and managed to escape before reinforcements arrived. Hiding in an abandoned house on the outskirts of town, Michael and Oliver discussed their next steps. They understood that it would be too risky to continue in the same spirit. Oliver, weakened and wounded, suggested that Michael find a new shelter and reconsider his plans. Michael made the decision to go to Russia, where he had old connections and the opportunity to create a new base of operations. They moved to Moscow, where Michael began to build new contacts and look for new allies. He soon met several former military personnel who became new members of his team. Among them were Sergei, a master of explosives, and Ivan, a specialist in tactical operations. With their help, Michael began planning new, more ambitious operations. They decided to focus on major thefts and smuggling, avoiding petty crimes that attracted too much attention. Operations in Russia were complex and dangerous, but they promised big profits. One of the most ambitious operations involved the smuggling of rare and valuable artifacts from museums and private collections. Michael and his team have developed a complex plan to steal several ancient artifacts from a museum in St. Petersburg. They carefully studied the security system and developed an infiltration and escape plan. The operation was successful, and they were able to remove several priceless artifacts from the museum. This success strengthened their position and allowed them to earn a significant amount of money, which Michael used to further expand his network. One morning, as the sun was just beginning to rise over Moscow, the body of Michael Johnson was found in his room. He was lying on the floor, and a pistol was found next to him. The wound on his head left many unanswered questions. No one could figure out whether it was murder or suicide. Michael's team, the remaining loyal comrades, were shocked and confused. Oliver, Sergei, and Ivan couldn't believe their eyes. Michael, who had always been the epitome of strength and determination, now lay dead. Their leader, a man who always found a way out of the most hopeless situations, now found himself a victim. The police quickly arrived at the scene. An investigation began, but answers were difficult to find. There were no obvious signs of a struggle, fingerprints, or other evidence indicating the presence of strangers. It looked as if Michael himself had decided to take his own life, but those who knew him could not believe it. Oliver, who had been with Michael since the beginning of their criminal career together, refused to believe in the suicide theory. He knew that Michael was full of plans and ambitions, despite all the difficulties and losses. Oliver decided to conduct his own investigation to find out the truth. Sergei and Ivan supported him. They began to study Michael's last days, his contacts and affairs. They knew that Michael had many enemies, and each of them could have a motive for killing him. But the evidence was scant, and finding anything concrete was extremely difficult. Meanwhile, rumors of Michael's death began to spread throughout the criminal world. Many saw this as an opportunity to strengthen their positions, knowing that Michael's team was now weakened. Oliver and the remaining members of the team knew that they had to be especially careful not to become the next victims. During his investigation, Oliver came across several strange coincidences. On the eve of Michael's death, he received a message from an unknown sender that contained threats. This message was the only clue, but it was impossible to trace its sender. Oliver began to suspect that someone close to him might have betrayed Michael. He checked everyone who had access to their hideout, but every time he found himself in a dead end. Questions remained unanswered, and anxiety and tension grew. Meanwhile, the police closed the case, declaring it a suicide, but Oliver and his team did not give up. They continued to search for the truth, hoping to find the one key that would solve the mystery of Michael's death. Their investigation led them to an unexpected discovery. One of Michael's former allies, a man named Dmitri, who was kicked off the team for betrayal, may have had a motive for revenge. But when Oliver found Dmitri, he was already dead, which only added to the mystery of this story. Every day brought new questions and few answers. But Oliver knew one thing: Michael couldn't just give up. His death was the result of someone's calculations and intrigues, and until the truth is revealed, he will not calm down. After weeks of investigation and setbacks, Michael's team finally got the answer they were looking for. Oliver and his men found important evidence: a hidden camera installed in Michael's room. The recording showed that, on the night of his death, a stranger entered the room and shot Michael, simulating suicide. This man was a professional, acted calmly and methodically. Oliver, Sergei, and Ivan were shocked by what they saw. They vowed to avenge Michael's death and find the killer, whoever he was. Their search led them to Dmitry Volkov, an old enemy of Michael and the leader of a powerful crime syndicate. Oliver and his team began preparing for their final operation. They studied all of Volkov's possible hiding places, his security and movement schedules. This mission was not just a matter of honor, but an act of justice for their fallen leader. Night fell when they decided to strike. Oliver, Sergei, and Ivan entered the territory of one of Volkov's hideouts. They acted smoothly and quickly, eliminating the guards and paving the way to the main building. A fierce firefight awaited them inside, but the team's determination and skill helped them prevail. When they reached Volkov, he was ready to fight. A fierce fight ensued, during which Oliver was able to gain the upper hand. Volkov, on his knees, admitted that Michael's murder was part of a plan to eliminate all his enemies and strengthen his power. Oliver, holding the gun aimed at Volkov, said, "This is for Michael," and he fired. The team then left the scene knowing their mission was accomplished. They avenged the death of their leader, but at the same time realized that their time as a united team had come to an end. The losses and stress of the past months have left an indelible mark on each of them. Sergei and Ivan decided to start a new life, leaving the criminal world behind. Oliver, although not ready to leave completely, knew that the team would never be the same. They said goodbye, realizing that their paths would now diverge. Michael Johnson's team disbanded, leaving behind a legend about the most daring and successful operations in criminal history. Each of them went their own way, but the memory of Michael and their common struggle remained with them forever. They knew that new challenges awaited them in the future, but the lessons and experience gained as a team would always help them cope with any difficulties. After the collapse of Michael Johnson's team, each of the remaining members went their own way, but the memory of the deceased leader continued to live in their hearts. They knew their lives would never be the same, but they sought to use the lessons and experiences they had learned to build a new future. Sergei, leaving his criminal career, moved to a quiet town in the south of Russia. He opened a small business repairing and servicing cars. Sergei's life became calm and measured, but he never forgot his comrades, and especially Michael, to whom he owed a lot. Ivan decided to use his military skills for more noble purposes. He joined a private security firm providing services to protect VIPs and facilities. Ivan often recalled Michael and their team, applying the knowledge and experience gained during those turbulent times. Years have passed, and only the legends of Michael Johnson's team remain in the criminal world. People told stories about the most daring robberies and elusive criminals who became real legends. Michael Johnson's name became a symbol of determination and courage, and his legacy continued to inspire new criminal leaders. But in the hearts of each of his former comrades there remained deep gratitude and memory of Michael. They knew that their lives were different because of this man who taught them to fight and not give up, even when everything seems lost. Thus, the story of Michael Johnson ended, leaving a mark in the hearts of his team and in the criminal world. His life was full of adventure, danger, and determination, and his legacy lives on in those who knew and loved him. Michael Johnson will forever be remembered as one of the most legendary criminal leaders, whose story will long be passed on from mouth to mouth. Since childhood, Liam Hudson has shown incredible resourcefulness and ingenuity. He was born in a small town in Colorado, where his family lived in poverty. Already in his early years, Liam began stealing small items from local stores to help his family make ends meet. But his real talents showed when he accidentally stumbled upon an old train station. Liam grew up in a home full of love but devoid of material goods. His father worked in a mine, and his mother was a cleaner at a local school. Money was tight, and Liam often wore old, threadbare clothes to school, making him a target for ridicule from his classmates. But this only strengthened his spirit. One of his favorite pastimes was listening to the stories of the old engineer, Mr. Jenkins, who sometimes sat on a bench near the station and smoked his pipe. Mr. Jenkins told stories of long journeys, adventures, and, of course, trains. These stories captivated Liam and fueled his dreams of a different life. Liam often stayed at the station after school, watching the trains and studying their routes. He noticed that trains carrying cargo were particularly interesting. Their security was weaker, and the cargo was often valuable. Liam began to develop a plan to steal something from these trains. His first real raid happened when he was 18 years old. Liam gathered a small team of his friends who also wanted to escape poverty. They chose a coal train and planned everything down to the last detail. At night, they made their way to the train and successfully hijacked several wagons full of coal. Selling coal brought them a good amount of money, and this was just the beginning. Buoyed by their success, Liam and his friends began planning their next raid. They realized that coal, although profitable, was not as valuable as other cargoes. Liam began looking for trains carrying more valuable goods such as gold, silver, and precious stones. With each new raid, their plans became more sophisticated and bold. Liam developed a system for tracking train schedules to select the most profitable targets. He also learned to bribe railroad workers to obtain information about the routes and contents of the cars. However, as their success grew, so did their danger. The police are hunting for a mysterious train robber, and security on trains has been tightened. Liam knew they needed to be even more careful and thoughtful. One of the most dangerous and complex raids was a raid on a train carrying a shipment of gold from the mines of California. Liam carefully prepared for this raid. He developed a plan that included distracting the guards, bribing the driver, and using special tools to open the cars. At night, as the train passed through a narrow canyon, Liam's team staged a fake accident to stop the train. At this time, Liam and his men quickly and silently entered the freight cars and began unloading boxes of gold. Everything went smoothly, and they managed to escape before the police arrived. This raid made Liam and his team even richer and more famous. But with wealth came new problems. The police stepped up their efforts to catch the robbers, and Liam had to go into hiding even more and change his methods. Despite all the difficulties, Liam was not going to stop. He continued to plan and carry out raids, constantly improving his skills and expanding his team. His name became a legend, and each new raid became a topic for discussion and speculation. With each new success, Liam became more and more convinced that his place was at the top. He continued to look for new, more complex and dangerous goals, not knowing that the biggest test of his life lay ahead of him. Liam Hudson and his team have become true masters of their craft. Their raids became more and more daring, and they acquired a reputation as elusive robbers. However, fame and fortune attracted the attention not only of the police, but also of rival gangs who wanted to get a piece of Liam's loot. One day, Liam learned about a train that was carrying not only gold, but also rare gems for New York jewelry houses. This was a rare opportunity, and Liam couldn't pass it up. He began to carefully prepare for this raid, realizing that this would be one of his most difficult and risky undertakings. Liam has assembled a team that has been tested by time and many successful operations. They developed a detailed plan, including bribing station workers and creating a distraction for the guards. The raid was planned for a dark, moonless night when visibility was minimal. When the day of the operation arrived, everything went according to plan. Liam and his men infiltrated the station and mined several tracks to distract the guards. While the guards were busy with the false alarm, Liam and his crew quietly made their way onto the train and began unloading the gems and gold. But this time, their luck changed. Suddenly, a police squad arrived at the station, having received a tip from one of the rival bandits. A shootout began. Liam understood that there was little chance of getting out without losses, but he was not going to give up. They began to retreat, shooting as they went and trying to carry away as much loot as possible. Liam and his men managed to escape into the forest, but the losses were significant. Several crew members were wounded, and some of the spoils had to be abandoned. Liam knew that now they would be persecuted even more actively. Despite the difficulties, Liam did not lose heart. He knew he had to change his methods and become even more careful. They took refuge in an abandoned house on the outskirts of the city, where they healed their wounds and made new plans. Liam knew there would be even greater challenges ahead, but he was prepared for them. He understood that every new raid was a step towards the top, and he was not going to stop. There was a new, even more ambitious plan ahead, which was supposed to make them the richest train robbers in history. Liam and his team continued to rebuild in the abandoned house. They knew that they could not stay in one place for long, and they needed to figure out how to escape persecution. Liam realized they needed to change tactics and raid locations to confuse the police. He decided to temporarily leave his native Colorado and move east to densely populated states, where it was easier to get lost among the crowds and find new, less guarded targets. The next target was a train transporting valuable goods from Boston to New York. Liam carefully studied the route and developed a plan that would go without a hitch. They reached Boston and lay low, collecting information about the train. Liam used old connections to gain access to train schedules and contents. He hired several new people to strengthen the team to compensate for the losses incurred in the previous operation. When the day of the new raid arrived, Liam's team was more prepared than ever. They positioned themselves along the route, preparing everything necessary for the quick and silent capture of the train. At night, when the train was traveling along an abandoned section of the track, the team quickly and smoothly took control of several cars, taking away all the valuable cargo. They left no trace and disappeared into the darkness like shadows. This raid became one of the most successful in Liam's career. The loot was huge, and they were able to escape without a single clue for the police. This strengthened their reputation and allowed them to continue their business with even greater confidence. Meanwhile, the police intensified their efforts to catch Liam's gang. They assembled a special group that studied every step of the robbers, hoping to find at least some clue. But Liam was too smart to leave any traces. Despite the successful raids, Liam felt tensions rising. He knew that their luck could not last forever, and they must find new ways to avoid capture. Liam began to think about leaving America and starting a new life in another country where they would not be looked for. But for now, his team was full of enthusiasm and ready for new adventures. Liam decided that their next step would be to raid a train carrying valuable works of art from New York museums to Washington. This raid required even more careful preparation, but also promised a huge reward. Liam and his team began to develop a plan that was to become their most notorious and daring crime. Liam and his team began careful preparations for the raid on the art train. They collected all available information about the route, security, and contents of the cars. This raid required not only courage, but also a high degree of precision. A mistake could cost them their freedom or even their lives. To prepare, Liam decided to involve specialists. He found an experienced safecracker and an electronics expert to ensure successful entry into the secure carriages. The team developed several contingency scenarios to minimize risks. That night, as the train headed from New York to Washington, Liam and his crew were ready. They chose a section of track where the train had to slow down on a steep descent. This was the perfect place to attack. A burglar and an electronics expert entered the train, disarming the alarms and breaking the locks on the cars. Liam's team worked quickly and efficiently. They unloaded valuable paintings, sculptures, and other works of art, carefully packed in protective containers. Everything went according to plan, and they managed to escape before security arrived. After this raid, Liam and his team became even richer and more famous. The works of art were sold on the black market for huge sums, which allowed Liam to think about his next step. He understood that with each new success, the danger increases, and it is necessary to look for ways to minimize risks. Liam decided it was time to change tactics and scene. He suggested that his team go to Europe, where the opportunities for such raids were no less extensive. It was a risky decision, but the team supported it. They began to prepare for the move, collecting all the necessary documents and preparing a plan for transporting the production. Liam chose Paris as his new base. The city was famous for its rich museums and galleries, as well as its extensive railway network, which opened up new opportunities for raids. They rented a luxurious mansion on the outskirts of the city, which became their headquarters. The first target in Europe was a train carrying a collection of rare jewelry from London to Rome. Liam developed a detailed plan that included not only seizing the cargo, but also quickly transporting it across borders. This required coordination and cooperation with local criminal elements, but Liam was confident of success. When the night of the operation arrived, Liam and his team acted with their usual precision and coordination. They hijacked the train on a section of track in the Alps where traffic was slow and conditions favored secrecy. The operation was successful and they were able to transport the loot to Paris without a single blemish. This raid strengthened their reputation in Europe and opened up new opportunities. Liam knew there was still a lot of work and danger ahead, but he was ready for anything. His team remained loyal and united, and they were ready for new adventures and challenges on the way to greater wealth and fame. Liam and his team enjoyed success and a new, luxurious lifestyle in Paris. However, Liam did not forget that their safety depended on constantly moving forward. He decided that the next step would be to raid one of the most guarded trains in Europe, a train carrying a collection of Vatican memorabilia from Rome to Berlin for a major exhibition. Preparations for this raid took several months. Liam has assembled a team of experts in various areas, from hacking complex security systems to document forgery professionals. He knew that this raid would be the most difficult of his career and required impeccable coordination of all participants. The first step was to obtain accurate information about the route and security of the train. Liam used his contacts in the criminal world to find out all the details. He learned that the train would be accompanied by heavy security, including armed guards and the latest security systems. Liam and his team came up with a plan that included several red herrings. On the day of the operation, they caused an accident on one of the bridges, which forced the train to change route and move through a less secure area. This maneuver gave the team the necessary time to prepare and set traps. When the train arrived, Liam's team was already ready. They used special devices to disable security systems and enter protected carriages. Inside, they found not only valuable relics, but also the latest technology used to protect them. It was a real challenge, but Liam and his team were up to the challenge. They managed to complete the operation and escape, leaving the guards at a loss. The loot turned out to be huge, and its sale brought Liam and his team incredible wealth. However, the fame of this raid attracted the attention of not only the police, but also international intelligence agencies. Liam realized they had to be even more careful now. He began to think about leaving Europe and going to Asia, where they would not be so actively searched for. But first, he decided to spend time in the shadows to calm down interest in their activities. They chose a small town in the south of France, where they enjoyed a well-deserved vacation. However, Liam couldn't stay quiet for long. Soon he began to develop a new plan, the most ambitious and risky raid of his life. Liam learned about a special train that was supposed to transport a huge shipment of gold from Moscow to Beijing. This train was surrounded by legends and was considered impregnable. But nothing was impossible for Liam and his team. Preparations for this raid included not only studying the route and security, but also working with local criminal groups to provide support on the ground. Liam understood that this raid would be a test for all team members, and he carefully selected people for this task. When the day of the operation arrived, everything was ready. Liam and his team arrived in Moscow and positioned themselves along the route. The raid was planned down to the smallest detail, and the team acted coherently and confidently. They were able to hijack the train and take out the gold, leaving the guards at a loss. This raid was the most notorious in Liam's career and brought him incredible wealth. However, now not only the intelligence services of Europe, but also Asia were hunting for him. Liam realized that their path was becoming more and more dangerous and began to think about leaving the criminal world forever. But for now, Liam and his team enjoyed success and continued to look for new opportunities for enrichment. Their stories became legends, and Liam himself became a living legend, the richest and most elusive train robber in the world. Liam and his team realized that they had reached unprecedented heights in their craft, but with success came increasing danger. They decided to lie low to avoid increased attention from the authorities. Liam knew they needed to temporarily stop the raids and change their tactics. They chose a quiet city on the coast of Thailand to hide and think about their further actions. For several months, they enjoyed a luxurious life, investing part of their funds in legal businesses to create a legal cover for their activities. Liam opened several restaurants and hotels, which not only generated income but also served as a meeting place for new partners. But Liam couldn't stay idle for long. He soon learned that rare antiques and treasures were being transported from a museum in Hong Kong to a private collection in Shanghai. This was a unique opportunity that could make them a lot of money. Liam decided that this raid would be their farewell before they left the criminal world completely. The team reassembled to prepare for the operation. Liam knew they had to act quickly and accurately to avoid any attention. They carefully studied the route, schedule, and security of the train, developing a plan that would run flawlessly. On the night of the raid, Liam and his team arrived on the scene. They used their old tricks, diversionary maneuvers, hacking security systems, and quickly entering the carriages. However, this time the guards were more prepared, and a fierce firefight began. Liam knew the stakes were high and they had to act decisively. Despite the difficulty, they managed to capture valuable treasures and escape. But this raid turned out to be much riskier than they expected. The police and intelligence agencies launched a massive operation to capture them, and Liam realized that now they really had to go into hiding. The team decided to split up and leave Asia. Liam headed to South America, choosing a small country with little international cooperation on extradition matters. He changed his appearance, used fake documents, and started a new life under a different name. The rest of the team also scattered around the world, each choosing their own path. They continued to communicate through encrypted channels, sharing news and information about their new lives. Liam started a new life in Brazil, where he opened a small hotel on the coast. He enjoyed the peace and anonymity, but at heart he always remained the same Liam Hudson who was not afraid to take risks for huge rewards. Despite all the precautions, Liam Hudson could not completely escape his past. His new life in Brazil seemed calm, but inside he felt empty. The adrenaline and thrill he experienced during the raids became part of his being, and without them, life seemed incomplete. One day, while sitting on the terrace of his hotel and watching the ocean, Liam received an encrypted message from one of the old team members. It was Marcus, his longtime colleague and friend. The message spoke of a huge opportunity that could take them back to the top. In Europe, plans were made to transport a unique collection of precious artifacts from a private museum in Spain to the Louvre in Paris. It was a convoy that included not only trains, but also armored trucks and heavy security. Marcus proposed to meet and discuss the details of a plan that could be their last great thing. Liam thought about this proposal for a long time. He understood that returning to the criminal world carried enormous risks, but the desire to feel the taste of adrenaline again was too strong. He decided to meet Marcus in Barcelona and discuss the details of the operation. The meeting in Barcelona was successful. Marcus explained his plan: hire the best people, use cutting-edge technology, and proceed with the utmost caution. They assembled a team of old proven members and several new faces with unique skills. Preparations for the raid were in full swing. Liam and Marcus worked out every detail, taking into account all possible scenarios. They chose the ideal location for an attack, a narrow mountain pass where the convoy would be forced to slow down. The day of the operation arrived. Liam and his team were ready. They positioned their forces along the pass, preparing everything necessary for a quick and effective capture. The convoy showed up right on schedule, and the team got down to business. The first step was to create an artificial landslide that blocked the path. The convoy guards were forced to stop and try to clear the road. At that moment, Liam and his men attacked. They used smoke bombs and ultrasonic devices to disorient the guards. Soon, Liam's team made their way to the trucks and began unloading the artifacts. Everything went like clockwork, but suddenly, police helicopters appeared on the horizon. Liam realized they had very little time left. They collected their loot and fled in pre-prepared vehicles, leaving the police far behind. This raid became the most daring and successful of their careers. Liam and his team divided the spoils and went to different parts of the world. Liam returned to Brazil, where he continued to lead a quiet life, enjoying luxury and anonymity. Liam enjoyed his quiet existence in Brazil, but he knew that even in this paradise he could not completely hide from his past. One hot tropical day he received an unexpected letter without a return address. Inside was only a piece of paper with coordinates and a laconic message. Last chance. The reward is huge. Liam couldn't resist the temptation. He decided to go to the specified coordinates, which led him to a place lost in the jungle. There he met an old acquaintance, Victor, a famous international smuggler with whom Liam had crossed paths several years ago. Victor told Liam about an incredible opportunity. A cargo ship carrying unique and rare artifacts from museums around the world was about to pass through the Panama Canal. This ship was not only heavily guarded, but also hidden from most of the world's cartels, making it an ideal target for Liam and his crew. Liam agreed to Victor's proposal, but understood that for such a task he needed to assemble the best team. He contacted Marcus and the rest of his old team again, offering them one last great job. They began preparations, carefully studying the ship's route and developing a capture plan. Liam decided to act at night when the guards would be less vigilant. They rented several speedboats and hired local fishermen who knew the waters of the Panama Canal well. The night of the operation arrived. Liam and his team were ready. They waited until the ship entered a narrow section of the canal and began their attack. Using boats and underwater vehicles, they quietly approached the ship. Liam and Marcus led the group to board the ship. Inside the ship, the crew encountered unexpected difficulties. The security turned out to be more prepared than they expected. A fierce firefight ensued, and Liam realized that time was running out. They had to act quickly and decisively. Liam and his men reached the cargo bays where the artifacts were stored. They began to unload valuable items, but at that moment, patrol boats entered the canal, raising the alarm. Liam realized they only had a few minutes to leave the ship. With incredible speed, they completed the operation and returned to their boats, carrying away the loot. Patrol boats gave chase, and Liam's crew found themselves in a tense race through the waters of the Panama Canal. Using their skills and knowledge of the area, they managed to escape into the maze of canals and rivers. When they finally reached safety, Liam felt a huge sense of relief. This raid turned out to be the most difficult and risky in his career, but also the most profitable. The loot included priceless artifacts that could be sold for huge sums of money. Liam and his team shared the reward and went to different parts of the world. Liam returned to Brazil, where he could finally enjoy a well-deserved break. He knew that his name would go down in history not only as the richest train robber, but also as a legend in the criminal world. Liam Hudson returned to Brazil, now even richer, but also more cautious. He knew his reputation could attract unwanted attention, So he decided to delve even deeper into legitimate business, masking his activities behind the facade of a successful entrepreneur. His hotel on the coast began to flourish, attracting wealthy tourists from all over the world. Liam invested part of his funds in the construction of a luxury resort complex, which quickly gained popularity among the rich and famous. Outwardly, he led the life of a respectable businessman, but within him, the fire of an adventurer still burned. One day, while enjoying an evening at his new resort, Liam received an unexpected visit. A middle-aged woman approached him with a mysterious sparkle in her eyes. She introduced herself as Evelyn, an agent for a private collection who needed Liam's help. Evelyn knew about his past and offered a deal that was hard to refuse. She talked about an incredible collection of precious stones hidden in an ancient castle in Switzerland. The collection belonged to one of the richest families in Europe, but access to it was almost impossible due to complex security systems. Evelyn offered Liam not only a generous reward, but also the opportunity to re-experience the adrenaline that he had been looking for so long. Liam, despite all his caution, could not resist the challenge. He began preparing for a new operation, enlisting the help of old friends and security experts. The team traveled to Switzerland, where they began to carefully study the castle and its security. The building was a real bastion, equipped with the latest technology and guarded along the perimeter. Liam and his team spent several weeks studying every detail and developing an infiltration plan. They knew that success depended on precision and coordination. On the night of the operation, the team acted quickly and decisively. They used the latest devices to hack security systems and silently entered the castle. A real maze awaited them inside, but Liam did not lose confidence. They reached the vault where the collection was kept and began removing the jewelry. But suddenly, the alarm went off. The castle guards responded quickly, and an intense battle began. Liam and his team worked together, but time was against them. At the last moment, they managed to take the main part of the collection and escape through a secret passage, which they learned about in advance. Returning to Brazil, Liam felt satisfied and proud of another successful operation. His life regained brightness and meaning. He realized that he would never be able to completely abandon his past. Liam now lived a double life, a successful entrepreneur by day and an elusive burglar by night. His legend continued to grow as stories of his exploits spread throughout the world, inspiring a new generation of adventurers. Outwardly, Liam's life in Brazil continued to be calm and successful. His resort complex flourished, attracting the elite from all over the world. But Liam still had the adventurer's fire inside him, and thoughts of new challenges haunted him. He spent his evenings in thought, studying maps and drawings, looking for new opportunities for adventure. One of these evenings he received a strange letter, delivered personally by courier. The letter was written on thick paper and contained a riddle hinting at a treasure hidden in the Amazon jungle. At the bottom was the signature, Evelyn. She found him again. Liam couldn't resist this challenge. He knew that searching for treasure in the jungle would involve huge risks, but he also knew that this was his chance to experience the adrenaline again and open a new chapter in his life. He contacted Evelyn, and they agreed to meet at one of his hotels. Evelyn told Liam about an ancient legend associated with the lost city of the Incas, where untold riches were hidden. Many tried to find him, but the Amazon jungle proved too dangerous for most explorers. Evelyn invited Liam to become the leader of the expedition, promising not only material rewards, but also glory that one could only dream of. Liam assembled a team of the best specialists, archaeologists, geologists, guides, and experienced mercenaries. They ventured into the heart of the Amazon, armed with the latest equipment and maps found in old archives. The path was difficult, and the jungle presented many surprises, from dangerous predators to treacherous swamps. As the expedition progressed, they encountered various obstacles, but with their experience and skills, Liam and his team overcame them. One day, after several weeks of travel, they came across traces of an ancient civilization. Stone buildings overgrown with vines and moss indicated that they were on the right path. However, as they approached the goal, the team began to feel not only physical fatigue, but also growing tension. Legend said that the treasures were guarded by the spirits of ancestors, and events soon began to confirm this. Sudden collapses, disappearances of team members, and mysterious sounds at night made everyone wary. Eventually, they reached the center of the lost city. Inside the ancient temple, they found a huge amount of gold, precious stones, and artifacts that exceeded all their expectations. But along with the treasures, they also discovered ancient traps that were activated when they tried to take the jewelry. Liam, using all his skills and experience, managed to bypass the traps and lead the team out of the temple with part of the treasure. However, at the exit from the city, another danger awaited them. A group of mercenaries hired by Evelyn's competitors tried to seize the treasures by force. In the ensuing firefight, Liam and his team managed to repel the attack and escape into the jungle. Returning to civilization, Liam and his team became legends. Their discovery caused a sensation, and Liam himself was again in the spotlight. But he understood that the real reward was not in gold and jewelry, but in the adventure itself and the experience. Liam Hudson, the richest train robber, also became the greatest treasure hunter of his time. And although his life had returned to normal, he knew that new challenges and adventures awaited him, which he would look forward to. Despite all the fame and fortune, Liam Hudson knew his thirst for adventure had not quenched. His exploits made him a legend, and his fame spread far beyond America and Europe. One evening, while sitting on the terrace of his hotel and watching the sunset over the ocean, Liam received another mysterious message. This letter was unusual, a thin silk envelope sealed with a gold wax seal. Inside was a small map and a laconic message. The eternal city awaits you. The secret of eternal youth will be your reward. The letter was signed by a familiar name, Evelyn. Liam knew this invitation could not be ignored. He gathered his team and went to Italy, to the heart of Rome. Here, among the ancient ruins and historical monuments, were hidden mysteries that could lead them to another incredible adventure. Evelyn met them in an ancient villa on the outskirts of Rome. She said that she had found ancient manuscripts that mentioned an ancient temple hidden under Rome. This temple supposedly held the secret of eternal youth, and many seekers have tried to find it over the centuries, but no one has returned. Liam's team was ready for any challenge. They began by exploring the catacombs of Rome, making their way through the labyrinthine tunnels and underground passages that ran deep beneath the city. The path was difficult, but Liam and his people did not give up. Various obstacles arose on their way: collapsed passages, traps left by ancient builders, and even competitors who learned about the search for Liam and his team. But thanks to experience and ingenuity, they moved forward. Finally, after weeks of intense searching, the team discovered a hidden entrance to the temple. It was a stunning sight: ancient columns decorated with mosaics and altars covered with gold decorations. In the center of the temple, there was a large stone sarcophagus decorated with mystical symbols. They knew that the solution was inside the sarcophagus. Liam and his team carefully opened it to reveal an incredible sight: ancient manuscripts, crystals, and vials of unknown liquids. It was a treasure of knowledge preserved for centuries. But as soon as they touched the treasures, the temple began to collapse. The walls shook and debris began to fall from the ceiling. Liam knew he had to act quickly. He took several of the most valuable artifacts and ordered the team to urgently leave the temple. They barely managed to get out of the catacombs when the temple completely collapsed. Returning to the surface, Liam and his team realized that they had found not only material treasures, but also knowledge that could change their lives. After studying the manuscripts they found, they realized that the secret of eternal youth was more than just a legend. It was a whole complex of knowledge about ancient medical and alchemical practices that could prolong life and maintain health. Liam returned to Brazil, where he opened a new center for the study of ancient knowledge. He decided to dedicate his life not only to adventure, but also to exploring these ancient secrets in order to make the world a better place. His reputation as a great adventurer and explorer was further strengthened. Now Liam Hudson is not only the richest train robber and treasure hunter, but also a man who has dedicated his life to finding and preserving ancient knowledge. His stories continued to inspire a new generation of adventurers and explorers, and Liam himself knew that many more incredible discoveries and adventures lay ahead of him. After returning to Brazil, Liam focused on studying the ancient knowledge found in a Roman temple. His new research center attracted the best scientists and researchers from around the world, but Liam knew that his fate would not give him peace, and soon a new adventure loomed on the horizon. One evening, Liam received an unexpected invitation to an international conference on ancient artifacts in Tokyo. He accepted the invitation, knowing that he might meet people there who would help him in his quest. In Tokyo, Liam met Professor Hiroshi Saito, a renowned expert on ancient Japanese artifacts and myths. Professor Saito told Liam about the legend associated with the mysterious island of Ryugu, which supposedly holds the secrets of immortality and incredible wealth. Legend said that this island appeared and disappeared in the ocean, and only a select few could find it. Hiroshi invited Liam to go in search of the island together, using ancient maps and modern technology. Liam agreed, realizing that this would be one of the most challenging and exciting adventures of his life. They assembled a team of the best explorers, sailors, and scientists and set sail across the Pacific Ocean. The journey was long and dangerous, but Liam and his team were determined. Finally, after several weeks of searching, they came across a strange phenomenon. An island appeared on the horizon in the distance, which was not listed on any map. They approached it and saw that it was a real piece of paradise: dense forests, crystal-clear lakes, and ancient temples hidden in the thickets. They went ashore and began to explore the island. The team discovered many artifacts and ancient manuscripts that support legends of immortality. But the most surprising discovery was that the island was inhabited by a small tribe that lived in harmony with nature and kept ancient knowledge. Liam and Professor Saito spent a lot of time with the local people, learning about their culture and traditions. They learned that the secret of immortality lay not only in ancient medical practices, but also in spiritual harmony with nature and the world around. Ryugu Island became a real discovery and source of inspiration for them. However, signs of danger soon appeared on the horizon. International corporations learned of the island's existence and its secrets and sent expeditions to seize wealth and resources. Liam knew he had to protect the island and its people. He joined forces with the locals and Professor Sato's team to create a defense plan. They used ancient traps and knowledge to stop the intruders. After several intense battles, they managed to defend the island and preserve its secrets. Returning to Brazil, Liam knew his life had changed forever. He not only found a new source of knowledge, but also realized that true wealth lies not in gold and jewelry, but in harmony with the world and oneself. Its research center has become one of the most famous in the world, attracting scientists and researchers from all over the world. Liam Hudson continued to live life to the fullest, exploring the world and discovering new secrets. His adventures became a legend, and his name became a symbol of courage, knowledge, and the desire for harmony. And although his travels were full of dangers, Liam knew that many more amazing discoveries and adventures awaited him ahead. After returning from Japan, Liam Hudson and his research center in Brazil became known throughout the world. He organized many expeditions, studying ancient civilizations and revealing their secrets. But his thirst for adventure did not fade. One day, Having received an invitation from an old archaeologist friend, Liam went to a conference in Cairo. There he met Dr. Amira Hassan, a renowned expert on ancient Egyptian artifacts. Amira told Liam about the legend surrounding a secret tomb supposedly hidden beneath the Great Pyramids. Legend has it that this tomb contains the pharaoh's stone, which has incredible magical properties. Liam couldn't resist this challenge. He and Amira decided to join forces and go in search of the tomb. They assembled a team of the best archaeologists and engineers to penetrate the underground tunnels and labyrinths hidden under the pyramids. The expedition began with a careful study of ancient texts and maps. Liam's team spent several weeks exploring caves and catacombs, encountering various traps and obstacles. Their path was full of dangers, but they moved forward, full of determination. One day, delving deeper into the dark tunnels, they came across a massive door decorated with hieroglyphs and symbols. This was the entrance to a secret tomb. Liam's team began to carefully open the door using modern technology and ancient knowledge. Inside the tomb, they discovered a stunning sight: walls covered with gold decorations and many ancient artifacts. In the center of the hall, on a pedestal, lay the pharaoh's stone, a huge crystal emitting a mysterious glow. However, as soon as they approached the stone, the tomb's ancient defenses activated. The walls began to move, and ancient mechanisms appeared from secret holes aimed at protecting the treasure. Liam and his team had to act quickly and coordinatedly to avoid the traps and get out alive. Using all their skills and knowledge, they managed to disable the mechanisms and take the pharaoh's stone. But their trials did not end there. The exit from the tomb was blocked and they were trapped inside. Liam knew he had to find another way. The team began exploring the tomb in search of a secret passage. They discovered a hidden tunnel that led to another part of the pyramid. Making their way through narrow passages and avoiding dangers, they finally came to the surface, holding an ancient artifact in their hands. Returning to Cairo, Liam and Amira realized that the pharaoh's stone truly had incredible properties. They decided that the stone should be preserved for science and study, and not used for personal gain. Together, they organized a research project, attracting the best minds from around the world. The secrets of the pharaoh's stone began to be revealed, and this discovery led to new scientific breakthroughs. Liam and Amira became known as heroes who not only found an ancient artifact, but were able to use it for the benefit of humanity. However, Liam knew that his adventures were not over. There were still unexplored secrets and treasures in the world that were waiting to be discovered. He continued to travel, opening new horizons and leaving behind him a trail of great discoveries. Liam Hudson is back in Brazil, but his thoughts are back to the good old days when he and his crew pulled off daring train robberies. In the evenings, sitting on the terrace of his hotel and watching the ocean, Liam again began to develop plans for new raids. He felt that the old fire had not gone out, and his team was ready for new challenges. One evening, he received an encrypted message from Marcus, who reported a new train carrying a large shipment of precious stones from the mines of South Africa to the port of Cape Town. This train was known by the code name Sapphire Express, and the security on it was incredibly tight. But it was precisely these kinds of challenges that attracted Liam. He contacted Marcus and the rest of the team, inviting them to return to the old business. The team responded enthusiastically to the proposal, and they began to carefully develop a plan. They knew that the raid on the Sapphire Express would require the utmost precision and coordination. The first step was to obtain information about the route and schedule of the train. Liam used his old connections in the criminal world to find out all the details. They studied every kilometer of the route, choosing the ideal place for an attack, a narrow mountain pass where the train would be forced to slow down. On the night of the operation, Liam's team was ready. They positioned themselves along the pass, preparing everything necessary for a quick and silent capture. Liam and his men used the latest technology to hack security systems and disable alarms. They made their way to the train, acting quickly and smoothly. After breaking into the freight cars, they discovered precious stones, carefully packed and guarded. Liam and his team began to unload the treasure, but suddenly the alarm went off. The train security reacted quickly and a fierce firefight began. Liam knew they didn't have much time, but he wasn't going to give up. Using smoke bombs and ultrasonic devices to confuse the guards, Liam's team managed to complete the unloading and escape. They loaded the loot into prepared vehicles and quickly left the raid site, leaving the guards at a loss. Returning to base, Liam and his team assessed the loot. The gems were worth a fortune. This raid became one of the most successful in their careers. They divided the reward and agreed to temporarily lie low to avoid increased police attention. But Liam knew this was just the beginning. New raids and tests lay ahead of them. He continued to develop plans and seek new goals, realizing that his team was always ready for new adventures and challenges. Despite the success of the raid on the Sapphire Express, Liam knew that they were only dreaming of peace. Soon he received information about another large cargo. A train carrying rare antiques and historical relics was supposed to leave Prague for Paris. Liam understood that such cargo would be under heavy security, but that didn't stop him. He reassembled the team and began developing a plan. They knew that the train's route would pass through dense forests and mountains, providing them with ideal conditions for a sneak attack. The team studied schedules and security, developing several contingency scenarios. On the day of the operation, Liam and his team were positioned along a narrow section of track where the train had to slow down on a sharp bend. They set several traps and prepared equipment to break into the carriages. When the train appeared on the horizon, the team began to act. Using powerful lasers, they cut through the armor of the carriages and entered. The train security resisted, but Liam and his men were ready. A quick and accurate attack allowed them to neutralize the guards and begin unloading the antiques. In the carriage, they found ancient paintings, sculptures, and precious artifacts valued at millions of dollars. However, as soon as they began to unload the loot, additional security arrived at the site, called by an alarm. Liam and his team were trapped, but not at a loss. Using smoke grenades and distraction devices, they managed to confuse the guards and complete the operation. The team quickly loaded the antiques into trucks and disappeared into the forest, leaving the guards far behind. Returning to base, they realized that this raid was not only successful, but also extremely risky. The booty turned out to be priceless, and they divided the reward, deciding to lie low for a while. Liam understood that each new raid required more and more caution and careful preparation. But his thirst for adventure did not fade, and he began to look for new goals. Soon he came across information about a train transporting rare minerals and precious stones from Siberia to Moscow. This cargo was as valuable as it was dangerous to capture. Liam reassembled the team and began preparing for a new raid. They studied routes, guards, and possible attack points, knowing that every detail mattered. The team was determined and ready for new challenges. On the day of the operation, they positioned themselves along the route, preparing everything necessary for a quick capture. The train, loaded with rare minerals and gems, slowed down a steep descent, and Liam's team launched an attack. They cut through the armored carriages and began to unload the valuable cargo, but suddenly encountered unexpected resistance. The train guards were prepared for a possible attack, and a fierce firefight ensued. Liam and his team acted quickly and decisively, using all their skills and knowledge. They managed to complete the unloading and escape, but not without losses. Returning to base, they realized that this raid was one of the most difficult and risky in their careers, but the extraction was worth all the effort. Liam knew that new challenges lay ahead, but he was ready for them. His team continued to prepare for new raids, knowing that their leader would always find a way to cope with any difficulties. Liam Hudson and his team continued to enjoy their successes, but Liam knew they needed to up the ante and create something truly big. He knew their reputation was already legendary, but now it was time to do something that would go down in history as the biggest heist of all time. One evening, Liam received information about a train that was supposed to transport the treasures of one of the largest banks in Europe from Berlin to London. This cargo included not only gold and precious stones, but also valuable documents, works of art, and rare antiques. Such a train attracted the attention of everyone who had ever thought about a major raid. Liam knew that such a plan would require the utmost preparation and coordination. He gathered the whole team and proposed an idea to them. They began to carefully develop a plan, taking into account all possible risks and difficulties. Liam decided that this raid should be not only the largest, but also the safest for his team. The first step was to obtain accurate information about the route and security of the train. Liam used his contacts to find out all the details. They found out that the train would travel through several countries, and each of them would provide its own security. This made the raid even more difficult, but Liam was confident in himself and his team. The team began preparations using the latest technologies and methods. They developed several diversionary maneuvers that would confuse the guards and allow them to act quickly and effectively. Each team member knew his role and was prepared for any eventuality. On the day of the operation, Liam and his team positioned themselves along key sections of the route, preparing everything needed for the raid. They chose a moment when the train would be crossing the border between Germany and Belgium, where security might be less vigilant. At that moment, their plan began. Using powerful lasers and explosive devices, they cut through the armor of the cars and began to penetrate inside. The train security offered resistance, but Liam and his men were ready for it. A quick and accurate attack allowed them to disarm the guards and begin unloading the treasure. Liam's team acted smoothly and professionally. They quickly loaded the loot into prepared vehicles, but were suddenly confronted by additional security arriving on the scene. A fierce firefight ensued, and Liam realized that time was running out. Using smoke grenades and distraction devices, they managed to complete the unloading and escape. The team split into several groups, each of which headed to pre-prepared shelters. Liam and his closest associates disappeared into the forest, leaving the guards far behind. Returning to base, they assessed the loot: gold, precious stones, works of art, and rare documents. This raid became the largest and most successful in their career. The haul was worth billions of dollars, and Liam's team knew they had made history. But Liam knew that such success would attract a lot of attention, and now they had to be even more careful. They decided to temporarily lay low and rest, but deep down, each of them knew that new grandiose raids and adventures awaited them. After a grand robbery, Liam and his team decided to lay low. They dispersed to different parts of the world to avoid the attention of authorities and competitors. However, Liam couldn't sit idle for long. Soon he began to develop a plan for a new, even larger-scale raid. One day, Liam received information about a train that was supposed to transport rare minerals and gems from the mines of South Africa to a large bank in Zurich. Codenamed the Diamond Express, the train was heavily guarded and an ideal target for a new daring operation. Liam gathered his team and gave them a plan. They understood that the success of this raid would require not only skill and ingenuity, but also impeccable coordination. The team began to carefully prepare, studying the train's route, its security, and possible vulnerabilities. The first step was to obtain accurate information about the train's schedule and security. Liam used his old connections in the criminal world to find out all the details. They found out that the train would travel through several countries, and each of them would provide its own security. This made the raid even more difficult, but Liam was confident of success. The team began preparations using the latest technologies and methods. They developed several diversionary maneuvers to confuse the guards and allow them to act quickly and effectively. Each team member knew his role and was prepared for any eventuality. On the day of the operation, Liam and his team positioned themselves along key sections of the route, preparing everything needed for the raid. They chose a moment when the train would be passing through a deserted area in Namibia, where security might be less vigilant. At that moment, their plan began. Using powerful lasers and explosive devices, they cut through the armor of the cars and began to penetrate inside. The train's security offered resistance, but Liam and his men were ready for it. A quick and precise attack allowed them to disarm the guards and begin unloading precious minerals and stones. Liam's team acted smoothly and professionally. They quickly loaded the loot into prepared vehicles, but were suddenly confronted by additional security arriving on the scene. A fierce firefight ensued, and Liam realized that time was running out. Using smoke grenades and distraction devices, they managed to complete the unloading and escape. The team split into several groups, each of which headed to pre-prepared shelters. Liam and his closest associates disappeared into the desert, leaving the guards far behind. Returning to base, they assessed the loot, precious minerals and stones valued at billions of dollars. This raid became the largest and most successful in their career. Liam and his team knew that they had gone down in history as the most daring and elusive robbers. However, Liam knew that such success would attract a lot of attention, and now they had to be even more careful. They decided to temporarily lay low and rest, but deep down, each of them knew that new grandiose raids and adventures awaited them. A few months passed and Liam began to think about the next big thing. He learned about a train that was supposed to transport not only precious stones, but also rare works of art from St. Petersburg to Paris. This was a unique opportunity that could not be missed. Liam reassembled the team and began developing a plan. They knew that the success of this raid would require maximum preparation and coordination. The team began studying the route, schedule, and security of the train, developing several contingency scenarios. When the day of the operation arrived, Liam and his team positioned themselves along key sections of the route, preparing everything they needed for the raid. They chose a moment when the train would be passing through a forested area in Poland, where security might be less vigilant. Using powerful lasers and explosive devices, they cut through the armor of the carriages and began to penetrate inside. The train security offered resistance, but Liam and his men were ready for it. A quick and precise attack allowed them to neutralize the guards and begin unloading gems and works of art. Liam's team acted smoothly and professionally. They quickly loaded the loot into prepared vehicles, but were suddenly confronted by additional security arriving on the scene. A fierce firefight ensued, and Liam realized that time was running out. Using smoke grenades and distraction devices, they managed to complete the unloading and escape. The team split into several groups, each of which headed to pre-prepared shelters. Liam and his closest associates disappeared into the forest, leaving the guards far behind. Returning to base, they appraised the loot, gems and works of art valued at billions of dollars. This raid became the largest and most successful in their career. Liam and his team knew that they had gone down in history as the most daring and elusive robbers. However, Liam knew that such success would attract a lot of attention, and now they had to be even more careful. They decided to temporarily lay low and rest, but deep down, each of them knew that new grandiose raids and adventures awaited them. Liam and his team decided that for their next heist, they needed something truly unexpected and innovative. They learned about a train that was supposed to transport cryptocurrency servers and mining equipment from Dubai to Frankfurt. This cargo was extremely valuable given the growing popularity of cryptocurrencies. Liam and his team began to develop a plan that involved using new technology and methods to infiltrate the train and seize the equipment undetected. They understood that the success of this raid would require maximum coordination and innovation. On the day of the operation, Liam and his team were positioned along a key section of the desert route. They chose the moment when the train would pass through a deserted area. Instead of using standard distraction methods, the team decided to use their latest developments. Instead of traditional smoke grenades, they used drones equipped with communication jamming systems and visual deception. The drones created the illusion that the train was surrounded by fog and mirages, confusing security. Liam and his men, dressed in thermal camouflage suits, made their way onto the train and used powerful electromagnetic pulses to temporarily disable the security systems. They got inside and began unloading mining equipment. The operation went according to plan, but suddenly the team was faced with an unexpected problem. One of the servers was mined in case of hacking. Liam reacted quickly and, using the knowledge of his specialists, defused the explosive device. Meanwhile, the train guards began to suspect something was wrong. Instead of a regular firefight, Liam's team used sonic weapons, creating powerful sound waves that stunned the guards and temporarily incapacitated them. Liam's team acted quickly and professionally. They loaded all the equipment into prepared vehicles and began to retreat. This time, they used underground tunnels, dug in advance using special equipment to hide from possible persecution. Returning to base, they assessed the loot and realized that this raid was the most innovative and risky in their careers. Mining equipment and cryptocurrency servers cost billions of dollars. However, their adventures did not end there. Liam learned about a new project, a train that was supposed to transport not only valuable cargo, but also the best scientists and researchers from around the world to a secret conference in Geneva. This train represented not only financial but also intellectual value. Liam and his team began developing a plan, realizing that this time they would face unprecedented challenges. They knew that the success of this raid would require maximum coordination and innovation. The team was determined and ready for new challenges. On the day of the operation, Liam and his team positioned themselves along key sections of the route, preparing everything needed for the raid. They chose a moment when the train would pass through a dense forest area where the guards might be less vigilant. Using jamming drones and acoustic weapons, they cut through the armored carriages and began to penetrate. The train's security offered resistance, but Liam and his men were ready for it. A quick and precise attack allowed them to neutralize the guards and begin unloading valuable cargo and scientists. Liam's team acted smoothly and professionally. They quickly loaded the loot into prepared vehicles, but were suddenly confronted by additional security arriving on the scene. A fierce fight ensued, and Liam realized that time was running out. Using pre-prepared routes and hiding places, Liam and his team were able to escape pursuit. Returning to base, they assessed the spoils, valuable technologies, developments, and intellectual data, the value of which was estimated at billions of dollars. This raid became the largest and most successful in their career. Liam and his team knew that they had gone down in history as the most daring and elusive robbers. After a string of successful and innovative heists, Liam Hudson and his team were enjoying a well-deserved break, confident in their elusiveness. But their self-confidence soon faced a new challenge. One of the best detectives in the world, Elias Carter, known for his unsurpassed insight and ability to solve the most difficult cases, joined the case. Elias Carter had long heard about the daring raids of Liam and his team. He was intrigued by their ability to evade capture and decided that he could be the one to stop them. Carter began his investigation by carefully studying each robbery, analyzing the techniques and traces left behind. Meanwhile, Liam and his team received information about a new train that would transport not only valuable cargo, but also rare artifacts from the Louvre Museum in Paris to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. This train was a real treasure, and Liam knew this was their chance to pull off another great heist. The team began developing a plan, unaware that Carter had already begun collecting information about them. The detective noticed subtle details that went unnoticed by others. He realized that the next raid would be connected with this train and began to develop his counterplan. On the day of the operation, Liam and his team followed the usual scenario: drones, acoustic devices, and high-tech hacking methods. They cut through the armored carriages and began to penetrate inside. At this point, Carter, watching from a safe distance, activated his traps. Carter had previously installed hidden cameras and motion sensors along the route to track Liam's team's every move. As they began to unload valuable artifacts, Carter signaled to his team. He decided not to engage in direct combat so as not to put himself or others at risk. Liam and his team noticed something was wrong when their devices started malfunctioning. They quickly realized that someone was watching them. Liam decided to retreat immediately. They loaded the loot and left the raid site, trying not to leave traces. Back at base, Liam and his team began to analyze what went wrong. They realized that someone very smart and prepared was acting against them. Liam decided he needed to find out more about his new opponent. Elias Carter, in turn, continued to collect information and analyze the actions of Liam and his team. He knew this cat-and-mouse game was just beginning. The detective was sure that sooner or later he would find a way to stop them. Liam and his team decided to temporarily lay low and change their methods to cover their tracks. They realized that now they had to be even more careful and resourceful to avoid capture. Elias Carter wasted no time. He focused on studying the latest robberies and found that Liam's team always followed certain patterns, but with new and innovative methods. He began to strategize how to use this to his advantage. Carter gained access to CCTV footage and communication signals to track Liam's team's every move. He realized that to succeed, he would need to not only observe, but also implement his technology into their equipment. Using his connections in the tech world, he was able to create devices that could neutralize drones and block Liam's team's communication signals. Liam and his team, unaware of Carter's plans, received information about a train transporting a large shipment of gold bullion from a bank in Zurich to London. This train was their next target. They began their preparations, confident in their abilities and methods. On the day of the robbery, Carter was ready. He placed his men along the train route, preparing devices to neutralize the drones and block communications. When Liam and his team launched their attack, the drones unexpectedly malfunctioned and communication signals were blocked. Liam sensed something was wrong, but the team was already involved in the operation. They continued to infiltrate the trains and began unloading the gold. At this point, Carter and his men attacked. They used technology to confuse Liam's team and neutralize them. A fierce battle ensued, but Carter and his men were better prepared. They acted quickly and smoothly, capturing Liam's team members one by one. Liam realized that their plan had failed and ordered a retreat. Part of Liam's team managed to escape, but Carter managed to capture several key members of the gang. They were taken to a secure location for questioning. Liam, realizing that he had lost some of his men, began to analyze how they could have fallen into a trap. Carter, having gained access to the gang members, began to carefully interrogate them, using not only force, but also psychological methods. He knew that Liam was their leader, and that without him, they wouldn't be able to hide for long. Meanwhile, Liam decided to save his people and developed a plan to free them. He knew it would be dangerous, but he couldn't leave his comrades in the lurch. However, Carter foresaw this move and prepared a trap for Liam. When Liam attempted to free his men, Carter and his team were ready. Another fight ensued, but this time Carter managed to capture Liam himself. He was arrested and taken to prison, where he faced a lengthy investigation and trial. The members of Liam's team who remained free were demoralized. They understood that without their leader, their chances of continuing their activities were minimal. Carter was victorious, but he knew there would always be new challenges and new criminals ready to test his abilities. The story of Liam Hudson and his team has become the stuff of legend, but that legend has now come to an end. Carter proved that even the most skilled and elusive criminals can be caught if a smart and determined detective works against them. Elias Carter was determined to catch Liam Hudson's entire team. After capturing several key members of the gang, he realized he had to act quickly to prevent the rest from escaping. Using the information obtained during the interrogations, Carter began to develop a comprehensive plan to capture the entire gang. Carter knew that Liam and his team had left trails in their latest operations, and he decided to use those trails to lure them out into the open. He created a fake operation that would attract the attention of Liam and his men. Carter spread rumors of a huge cargo of diamonds being transported from South African mines to Amsterdam. Liam, despite the risks, decided that this was too good an opportunity to pass up. He gathered the remaining team members and began preparations for the raid. They developed a plan that included using the latest technology and techniques to successfully hijack the cargo. Meanwhile, Carter prepared his trap. He placed hidden cameras and sensors along the route to track the gang's every move. He also brought the best special forces into the operation to ensure success. On the day of the operation, Liam and his team followed their plan. They used drones and high-tech devices to neutralize guards and infiltrate trains. However, they were unaware that Carter was watching them from the very beginning. As the team began to unload the diamonds, Carter activated his trap. He disabled all of Liam's drones and communications devices, leaving them without support or information. At this moment, special forces attacked from several sides, surrounding the team. A fierce fight ensued. Liam and his men tried to resist, but Carter and his team were better prepared. They used tactics and modern weapons to quickly neutralize and capture each member of the gang. Liam realized they had fallen into a carefully planned trap. He tried to lead his men out of the encirclement, but Carter was one step ahead. The detective anticipated Liam's every move and blocked all escape routes. When the last of the gang were captured, Liam realized it was the end of their careers. He was arrested along with his associates and taken to a special facility for interrogation. Carter personally conducted interrogations, using his skills to obtain as much information as possible about the gang's activities. As a result of the investigation, all the details about the past raids of Liam and his team were revealed. The trial was quick and fair. Liam and his people received long prison sentences. Their legend, which once inspired fear and admiration, has now become a story of how even the most intelligent and cunning criminals can be caught. Carter proved that even the most sophisticated criminals cannot escape justice if a smart and determined detective works against them. His name has become synonymous with professionalism and perseverance. And the story of Liam Hudson and his gang is an example that sooner or later justice will prevail. Elias Carter, having achieved his goal, felt relief and satisfaction from the completed work. The arrest of Liam Hudson and his team became a sensation in the criminal world and police circles. Carter received numerous awards and recognition for his work, but knew this was only one of many cases he would have to investigate. After trials in which Liam and his team received long prison sentences, Carter returned to his regular job. He continued to investigate complex and intricate cases, always remembering that each new case was another challenge to his skills and professionalism. Meanwhile, Liam Hudson, sitting in prison, reflected on his life and his mistakes. He understood that his thirst for adventure and risky operations led to his downfall. But despite this, he did not feel regret for the life he lived, full of dangers and thrills. Liam knew his story was the stuff of legend. Books were written about him, documentaries were made, and his name became a symbol of audacity and elusiveness. In prison, he began writing his memoirs, hoping that his experience and knowledge would help others avoid the same mistakes. Members of Liam's team who ended up in prison also found their own ways of coping with the situation. Some began to cooperate with the authorities, providing information about other criminal groups. Others tried to change their lives, finding new ways for self-realization. Carter, meanwhile, continued to serve as an example to young detectives, showing that persistence, intelligence, and professionalism can lead to success in even the most difficult cases. His name became synonymous with fairness and justice, and his methods became an example to follow. The story of Liam Hudson and his crew may have ended, but it has left an indelible mark on everyone who followed their adventures. Their legend continued to live, reminding us that even the most daring crimes will sooner or later be solved if a determined and intelligent enemy acts against them. Elias Carter knew that new things and new challenges lay ahead, but he was ready for them. Each new investigation was an opportunity for him to prove that justice always finds its way. And although Liam Hudson's story has come to an end, for Carter, this was just the beginning of new adventures and victories.